so happy to have you here. We're just going to kind of get everyone logged in. We have everybody on mute right now because it would be too much to try to have all multiple conversations, but we're so happy. What's really cool is there's a chat feature, so you're going to be able to like interact and ask questions, do everything that you want to do in there. I would love to know where everyone's from, because we're literally coast to coast and honestly global of the response, and we're so happy to have this time to connect with you. So thank you for being here. We'll probably get started around 11:05. We want to give people time to settle in. So if you need to grab a mimosa, a coffee, a tea, whatever you need. They're joking me that my water bottle actually has vodka in it, which who knows, by the end of this, I may have that. But welcome and thank you so much. Germany, all right, look at this. I love it. Thank you, everybody. Welcome. This is awesome. Welcome, everybody. Get cozy. We've got some wonderful, fun people to talk to you. We're so happy to have you. It's real. This is awesome. Welcome. And some of the shining faces here at the beginning, some of our Kindbody friends, we have our team from coast to coast here. So if you're Kindbody, wave right now and say hello to everybody out there. Yes, hi. Welcome. So we'll just sit a few more moments. We literally have our team from California to New York, everywhere, San Francisco, Los Angeles. And thank you so much for joining us today. We really, it's a incredibly difficult time, and we really wanted to think and take a pause and figure out how we could help. And the best way we thought was to do something like this where we can connect and have a conversation. And that's what Kindbody is all about. We're really about accessible healthcare and empowering people and showing, and this is a way we can kind of shine our light. And in these difficult times, just connect and have a conversation. And every speaker that is here today, I'm really wowed by, because they came in wholeheartedly and open-heartedly. And at the very end, we even have a goodie bag of discounts and treats and free things that to really give you something to take on from this moment. And I can proudly say that we're committed to being a thought leader and a conversation starter, but that really only goes as far as how you connect back to us. So there will be a little bit of a survey at the end. Tell us who you want us to talk to. Who should we share? This is an inclusive, diverse conversation for us to really connect. And we want to know worldwide, who are these specialists? Like, shine the light. Let's all come together and have a beautiful conversation and really share information. Like, why not? And this is what a cool venue. And I can't be your Oscar host, but I'm going to do my best on Zoom to really moderate and bring the pieces together. But hopefully my dogs aren't going to bark and things won't go a little crazy. But if it does, that's just really what life is at this point. But thank you. I mean, we really have a great group already, so we're going to get ready to start. So again, thank you, everybody. We're here. It's 11:05, so we're going to kick off. And again, Kindbody, we're going to start doing a weekly content series. And today our focus is really with a group of women that came together the moment I asked. We're going to expand these and have different topics and make sure that we're being inclusive in the topics and range and things that we do. I'd love to introduce our amazing president of Kindbody, Ann-Beth Eschbach, who's going to talk first and tell us a little bit about and get us started.
Thank you, Tracy. So exciting. And thank you, everyone, for joining us from all across the country and even all across the globe. At Kindbody, it is our mission to make women's health and fertility care more accessible to all, and to build a community and support for our patients. And healthcare and community come hand in hand, and healthcare and community need to go beyond four walls. And we're really grateful that we can come together and support each other virtually when we can't be together physically. But no matter what is happening in the world, it is our promise to you that we will continue to support you, meet you wherever you may be, through absolutely every facet of your health, fertility, and wellness journey. So, anyway, today we are super jazzed and blessed to gather with and gain strength from and knowledge from a rock star lineup of fertility experts and from Kindbody's very own talented, passionate doctors and clinicians. So, speaking of talented, passionate rock star doctors, it is my pleasure to introduce you to Dr. Meredith Brower, who is Kindbody's Los Angeles reproductive endocrinologist. And Meredith is one of the most sought after fertility doctors in LA, and she's famous for high touch, holistic patient care and great outcomes. So I am excited that she will be guiding us through today's virtual global fertility retreat. Meredith, over to you.
Thank you, Ann Beth. Wow, that was a wonderful introduction. I'm flattered. Thank you. So I also, just really quickly to reiterate what everyone said, thank you so much to everybody who has taken this time on their Saturday morning to be here to connect with us. A few weeks ago, when we were sort of forced to stop seeing patients in the clinic, Tracy and I sat down and had how can we connect? How can we still support people, right? Because people are still going to want to feel connected. People are still thinking about their fertility. Just because they can't come to the clinic doesn't mean they're not thinking about it right now. And how can we support everybody? And I had these, let's do this little thing and let's do this little thing. And Tracy said, let's do this big thing. And she had this idea to put this retreat together, and we've had a huge response. And I think it just shows that people want to connect. And so we are so grateful to everybody who's joining us. To our speakers, when Tracy reached out to the speakers, they jumped. She didn't offer to pay them. They jumped at the opportunity to be a part of this and to join us. And everybody wanted to help and support in any way that they could. And it's been overwhelming and made us feel really good at this really scary time. So thank you to our speakers. And to all the Kindbody team. A bunch of them are here, and when I do my talk, I'm going to introduce you to Dr. Sasan and Hina and a bunch of our physicians and PAs who are here with us. So sit tight for that. And you're going to learn a little bit more about Kindbody as we go through this as well. But it is a really, really special place with a really, really special team of people who are truly, truly dedicated to taking care of people as a whole. And I feel so lucky to be part of this team and to be here with you guys. And I think I'm throwing it back to Tracy, who's going to introduce our first speaker.
Hi, guys. My first speaker today is, and of course my dog is barking, yes. So my first speaker today is Sarah Krish. She is, you can't put her in a box because honestly, she does just about everything. And anytime I've tried to do an event or do something and I'm like, well, I need a yoga teacher. She's like, I do yoga. I do spin. I do this. So Sarah is a spiritual teacher and such a beautiful, you'll meet her yourself, but her job for us today is to start us in a guided meditation and to do talk a little about intention setting. So Sarah, welcome, and take it away, love.
Thank you. Just confirming that you can hear me. Yes, fantastic. So the energy inside my sweet soul has been really buzzy over these last few days as the invitation has been put out there and extended again and again and again, and more of you said yes. So last night I was up for quite some time, sitting with the energy of this group, listening to what it is that we need in this moment that feels very isolated, that feels very thick and dense and quite scary and unknown. So I wrote you a little love letter and I would love to read it to you, but I'll ask that you close your eyes and place your hand on your heart and allow yourself to get very cozy inside your space. And from here, we will transition right into our meditation. So just allow yourself to be taking a few deep breaths in through the nose and let it go out of your mouth. We are writing history, each of us, by showing up to this very moment with open hearts and a hunger to fuel our fire. We heal, and the collective heals. A beautiful narrative is being created right now that will spread stories of inspiration about the seekers of the light, those who courageously chose to rise above the fear, the fog, the dimly lit spaces, to cultivate a new, love-sourced experience, rich with truth, compassion, abundance, forgiveness, healing, joy, peace, wisdom, unity, miracles. Take another big breath in through the nose and a gentle exhale out of your mouth. And notice the way that your body feels in this moment as you consider this experience for the collective that is rich with love, healing, peace. Can you feel that? And then begin to scan the body, starting with the crown of your head and moving all the way down to the tips of your toes. Noticing where inside of you there might be some resistance. There may be blocks, perhaps doubt. In this beautiful unfolding that we are inside in this very moment as seekers of the light, healers of the world. What could stop us from creating that? See it in your body. Old stories, old patterns, restrictive thoughts, pains. Gently scan the body with love, with compassion, allowing all of you to rise. Feel it, whatever it is. And then bring your attention to your hips and envision yourself seated on a big, wide, old stump with roots traveling down through the earth, all the way down to the center of the earth. Allow your hips to begin fusing with this stump. Become one with Mother Nature. And again, moving through your body, scoop up those areas inside of you that felt uncomfortable, that perhaps felt like they weren't quite yours, that felt restrictive and pain-filled. And begin bringing them down toward your hips, toward this stump, to the roots, all the way to the center of the earth. And one by one, allow these darker energies to drop through your hips, through the stump, down its roots, to the center of the earth. Watch them go one by one. Feel the space you are creating inside your body with this release. Keep breathing deeply. When you've finished releasing, just trust that the grounding cord, those deep, deep roots, remain. So as we move forward, if anything else pops up and shows itself to you, simply drop it down with ease to the center of the earth. Draw your attention back up to the crown of your head. And create this golden light, this ball of fire, this radiant sunshine. Inside of this ball of sunshine, see compassion and joy, peace, wisdom, love, unity, miracles. And then begin pulling this golden sun down through your head, your shoulders, your chest, all the way down to your fingertips, your belly. Let this golden sun wash over your hips and your legs, all the way to the tips of your toes. And it doesn't stop there. Allow this golden light to extend outside of your physical body. 1 foot, 2 feet, 3 feet all around you. Each inhale, you're soaking in more golden light, healing light, love, joy, compassion, forgiveness, healing. Feel that. In this moment, you're 100% you. The way you are intended to be, each of us is intended to be in all our power. How does that feel in your body? From this space, begin envisioning this unfolding that is happening right now for each of us as we move closer to this love-sourced experience for the collective. What can you see? What does that look like? What are you creating that supports that? Who are you being? How do you show up? What are you sharing with others? In all your love as 100% truth. Gently tuck your chin, bowing your head, acknowledging all that you are. Take a big breath in and a gentle exhale out. And with your eyes still closed, begin to bring yourself back into your physical body, pressing more firmly against your chest, wiggling your fingers on the other hand, maybe your toes too. And just take another moment considering the actions that you can take in these next 30 days or so that support the unfolding, this beautiful collective healing. You in this world as a seeker of the light. What shifts? What changes? Who are you showing up as, and how are you spending this gift of time? Be with you right here. Listen. And when you feel clear and ready, you can release your hand from your heart. Softly blink open your eyes, bringing yourself back to this space. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah.
You're welcome.
I'm so excited to talk about intentions, and I appreciate all the additional people who have joined us. Unfortunately, I had to turn off chat because there was some bad eggs trying to ruin it for us. But I just implore, we are unable to delete their comments, but I'm not going to let that nonsense energy even deter from the incredible, amazing momentum that we have going on right now. So we will pick them out like little fleas and flick them off, but just know we want to keep the chat on because we want to communicate. So we apologize if there's any bad expletive comments for those people. I say shame on you. And most importantly, know that I have the worst potty mouth. If you can ask any of my friends and coworkers, I feel like certain words are passionate and need to be utilized, and that all has a place in business. But just know that I really want to have the chat back on because I think it's important to keep us all connected. So if we see the nonsense makers, we will kick them out. But I really want to make sure that we can be open and continue to have a conversation. And I love any new joiners. Please put your comments where you're from, because we're literally from around the globe and growing, and the energy is continuing to grow. Sarah just led us in a wonderful guided meditation to get us kicked off and started. And now she's going to talk a little bit about intention. So Sarah, please take it away. Continue. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So inside this space, we've now released things that may stop us, fog us from seeing where it is that we are headed. So we are fresh, we are clean and clear. It's the most beautiful time following a meditation, especially like we just did there, the grounding and the releasing, to consider what it is that we are up to. And when I'm suggesting the consideration of our unfolding, we have a tendency to go into the doing. We are very great at doing in this world. But because we have been invited and somewhat forced to slow down and to isolate, maybe no work, no gatherings, we have nothing but time for many of us in this moment. And so the invitation is, how do we best use this gift of time? How are we showing up? What is the language that we're using so that it is a very useful time? So we're not looking at our clocks just waiting for the quarantine to end or the virus to pass. This is a beautiful learning moment for the collective, and it will transform us if we choose to do the work. So you may have seen inside this meditation things for yourself that are new, that are unfamiliar. I highly suggest that you write those down, and following this gathering together today, you each spend some really good quality time with what was being shown to you, because that is the truth. When we take out the fear and we take out the energetic blocks, we are able to see the truth of who we are and what we're up to. So don't take this lightly. Whatever it is that you heard, write about it, be with it, get as much detail as you can. And then from this, you will see, who can I be every day to support where it is that I'm headed? That I can support the unrestricted version of who I am. This can be a really big upgrade for us if we allow it. So that's my offering. Sit with what came up and take action on it inside the being.
Rebecca, are you ready? Do we have some questions? And we'd like to open the floor to questions for Sarah. Anything that you would like to ask, Rebecca. Oh, and I'm so sorry I didn't introduce earlier. We've got Rebecca Silver. She's right there. She can wave to you. And Emmy Gaviola, where these are my counterparts, one in New York, one in San Francisco. And they're really going to help me moderate and handle questions. And so, Rebecca, thank you so much for helping gather everybody and answer questions.
Yeah, so we have a lot of positive comments in the chat now. Thank you all. And it's great to see where everybody is from. If you have any questions for Sarah, type them into the chat and I will relay them.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
So Sarah, you know, do you have, so say somebody, one of the things that I talk to patients about a lot is, you know, using mindfulness, or the idea of using mindfulness and meditation to manage sort of the stress, anxiety of this moment. fertility or infertility or whatever it is. Do you have any recommendations for someone who knows nothing about mindfulness, nothing about meditation? Where would you even start?
Yeah, it's the slowing down. Again, going back to that tendency of us being a society of doers. So we aren't quite used to the slowing down and the taking 5 minutes every day. And maybe that's where we begin, 5 minutes every day to sit in stillness. And there's no agenda about it other than to just slow down, to just listen. We are very quick to grab for the thing, the distraction, the noise, the social interactions. And so we're going and going and doing, and it doesn't give our truth time to be seen and be heard. So it's just 5 minutes with you, listening in curiosity. Who is she? Who is he? Who is this person? Yeah.
Thank you, Sarah.
And we have a great question. What are some quick exercises to be present and to recenter?
Yeah, how I had us begin with hand on heart. I will find myself often in this physical connection to self, waiting in line at the grocery store or driving, and I start to feel disconnected from my body. Maybe my monkey mind has started to go really loudly, and I'm getting away from myself. I'll just bring my hand to my heart, and if I can't close my eyes, just pressing my palm against my heart is a beautiful reminder as I feel that heartbeat and I feel my chest rise and fall as I'm breathing, the simplicity and the power of all that I am.
Great, thank you so much. I think we can move on then. Back to you, Tracy, unless there's any other questions in the chat.
I think we're good. And Sarah, thank you so much. And I appreciate you giving us time. And we're going to talk a little bit further. Meredith kind of wanted to touch a little bit on your journey, and we'll talk about that for a second before we let you go. We're not letting you go quite yet. Okay.
Get off the hook, Sarah. Thank you again. That was really beautiful and such a nice way to start the morning. And we're going to spend more time with Sarah. We're going to hit her up to do another session soon. But I just want to take a second to acknowledge Sarah herself as a cancer warrior and a fertility advocate, and we're grateful for that. A lot of people who are dealing with anything fertility related, which I'll talk about again, feel very isolated, and Sarah has done work and as an advocate to make people not feel that way. So she shared her journey, and she's going to share it with us more, because whether she knows it or not, we're coming back for her to do another event where we'll have more time to just hear a lot more about her story to share to our community. So thank you again, and we'll be back.
Thank you.
So for our next person that we have, I couldn't be more, again, I'm excited for everybody that jumped in on this, but a friend for, I would say 10 years, and she's always been, I would say, my health food guru and support when I want to create something junky, she'll come up with something healthy for me. We've got Julie Morris, who is a cookbook author, a chef, and again, like all of us as humans, we're kind of a jack of all trades and share our magic in all these different ways. So I'm excited to have Julie. Do we have you, Julie? We got to see, because we have such a wonderful group here. We got to get everybody. Let me see if I can get Sam. Do we know where Julie is? Oh, Julie. There she is. I've got you, Julie. I found you.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
I'm out there somewhere.
You are. So welcome, beautiful Julie. Thank you for joining us from Ventura, California. I mean, it's
the way from Ventura, California.
Yes, exactly. We're literally around the globe. I'm looking at the chat, and it's like Costa Rica and Brazil, and honestly, it's showing how we're all connected. And I appreciate you taking the time to really give us some good tips on how to, like, our food wellness and how that kind of vibrates further. So take it away, Julie.
Well, it is, I mean, truly such an honor and pleasure to be here. And it is such a terrible time, but also such a unique time full of opportunity, like we just heard Sarah talking about. And I think that's what really rings true to me here in a positive sense, is that even though we feel so out of control during this situation, understandably so, there are some things that we can do. This is a great opportunity to prioritize what is important to us right now. And one of the best things that we can do, one of the easiest things that we can do to enhance our health and our wellness and how we feel physically and how we feel mentally and how well we sleep, literally everything, is food. And the exciting thing about food, one of the things that I personally have always loved about food, is it is one of those things that we can control regardless of circumstance. And so right now, we have the opportunity to make huge advances in terms of what is going in on our plate. And if we are, living with someone, living with a family, whatnot, we also can help those around us as well. So that being said, there's a lot of information out there right now about what you should get at the grocery store. There's like all types of lists, like get your rice and beans, get your frozen pizza, get your toilet paper. But I really wanted to share some of the few things that not only am I keeping on hand at home, but I'm also picking up at the store, making sure that we have on virtually a daily basis. And these are things that can enhance your health and they can enhance your cooking as well. So I don't have a ton of time, so I'm just gonna dig right in there. Food number one would actually be lemons. This is something that is as valuable to me as salt and pepper, literally speaking. Lemons, we hear a lot about being a cleansing food, but what does that really mean? I mean, what does it mean to be a cleansing food anyways? The reason why lemons are such a cleansing food are twofold. One, they're highly nutritious, low in calories, high in nutrients. That means a high nutrient density. They have a lot of vitamin C, which is great for the immune system. They have a lot of potassium in them. And what's amazing about lemons is they actually help to stimulate your digestive tract. They help to stimulate saliva. They help to stimulate those gastric fluids. And this is really just a fancy way of saying they make sure that all the other foods that you eat during the day, you get more nutrients from the things that you're eating, and you help to eliminate the things that you don't want faster. This is huge. This one thing, all on its own, can help us get more out of every single bite that we take. And so you may have heard about having a little bit of lemon juice in the morning. Great tip. You can throw it in some water, some tea, whatnot. If there was ever a time, and you're going to hear me say this a lot, if there was ever a time to do this healthy tip, it's right now. A lot of us don't have a morning commute to contend with right now, so it's a perfect time to add in a little bit of that lemon action into the food that we're making and into the drinks that we're consuming. So tip number two would be herbs and spices. These guys are the underdogs. I see this all the time in recipes. They're just kind of added in and people are cavalier about them. Many of us have a spice drawer that's super dusty and there's two spices that we actually use out of it. It's you go for the Italian seasoning or the taco seasoning or whatever, and everything else just kind of sits there for a long period of time. Believe it or not, herbs and spices are some of the most powerful, potent foods that we can possibly consume. They're beyond nutrient density. They are straight up medicinal. And so it's really, really beneficial to use more herbs and spices in our cooking. Now, of course, this is going to enhance the flavor, it goes without saying, but I really want to encourage you to start playing around more with the herbs and spices that you already have on hand. Every single one is going to come with its own set of benefits. These are some of the most highly antioxidant-rich foods. They have antibacterial, antifungal, and yes, antiviral qualities. So while again, these aren't any kind of cure, they're not going to be a preventative measure, they can help keep us healthier and more ready in case we do get sick. So things like rosemary, really good for blood circulation. Parsley is another great one, very rich in vitamin C, very detoxifying as well. You can use things like turmeric, which we've heard all about being a really, really great anti-inflammatory food, but it's also a great antiviral food as well that helps to stimulate the immune system. Literally, the list goes on and on. So I won't go too much into all the different types of herbs and spices because there's thousands of them, but just use them, whatever you have on hand. A third thing that I would highly recommend is fermented foods. Now, fermented foods are kind of an interesting thing because we hear that they're good for our gut health, right? Basically, our microbial activity inside of our digestive tract. But the interesting thing about these foods is that the gut, anytime we help to stimulate gut production, we actually help to enhance the immune system as well at the same time. These two systems are completely related. So all of that good bacteria that is in our gut actually helps to modulate the immune system and help encourage homeostasis. So things like yogurt, I like personally non-dairy yogurt, kefir, these are great gut healthy foods. And also things like fermented vegetables. Sauerkraut is a fantastic one. You can pick this up at the store, or what I really encourage you to do, especially since so many of us are home right now, make your own. Making sauerkraut is one of the easiest, most satisfying fermented foods that you can make. It's literally just cabbage and salt. That's all it is. And it takes a couple of weeks, but looks like we have a little bit of time on our hands. So now is a perfect time to make your own. And this is something that you can do to enhance your immune system. And then lastly, there's a little bit of extra credit here, but I do like to recommend having a few superfoods. As I said earlier, if there were ever a time to start getting into more superfoods in your diet, it's right now. So things like chia seeds are a wonderful thing to have on hand. They last for a really long time. They're very high in omega-3 fatty acids, minerals like calcium, tons and tons of fiber. They're a really good, well-rounded food. And these are something that, you know, whether you have like a earthquake kit or emergency kit or now like a pandemic kit, have some chia seeds on hand. This is something that's really, really important. Also, things like goji berries are a wonderful superfood that have been used for literally thousands of years in Asian countries for their benefits on the immune system, high in vitamin C, high in antiviral and antioxidant activity. And they're quite delicious, so you can consume them either straight out of the bag or cook with them in either sweet or savory recipes. And both those ingredients are actually, you should check out navitasorganics.com. They're superfood friends of mine. They're offering 40% off all of their superfoods. So woohoo, you know? And then lastly, just one little extra credit, superfood here. This is something that's front and center in my own pantry cabinet right now, is medicinal mushrooms. These are another amazing group of superfoods that are immunomodulators. They help to balance your immune system. So there's lots of different types of medicinal mushrooms. They usually come in a powdered form. If I had to pick one or two, I would say reishi and turkey tail are two of the most potent and most well-rounded for the immune system as a whole, which is quite a complex system that we have. So we don't want to go too much down the rabbit hole of that one. But having those superfoods on hand are really, really beneficial. And those are things that you can just add to smoothies, add to soups, all that goodness. So I want to be conscientious and respectful of everybody's time here. So if we have any questions, I would be happy to jump into those.
We do have some great questions. We have a few questions about what to do when you are stressed out right now and all you want is junk food.
I hear you. So I actually have a really good tip for that, and it's called chocolate. And I mean that, like, it's not a joke. Chocolate is one of the best stress relieving foods that we have available to us. It's actually something called a natural nootropic, which means that it helps boost your brain optimization and helps to actually boost your mood. It helps to boost your focus. It helps to increase calm. And it's a really, really great overall balancer. It's also very high in magnesium, which is an important micronutrient. It's an important mineral for your entire body. But one of the effects that magnesium has on your body is it helps you relax. And so by consuming chocolate, and of course we're talking about dark chocolate here. We don't want to go into those high sugary chocolates. So nice dark chocolate, or even better still, cocoa or cacao powder is a great stress relieving food. And for most of us, it's probably one of our favorite foods too. So you get some enjoyment out of it at the same time.
Is there any particular chocolate type or brand that you recommend?
In terms of just regular chocolate, I like the endangered species kind because, you know, good cause and everything. So that's a really, really good one. They have some really good dark chocolates. Also, Alter Eco is another really, really good chocolate. They have 80%, 90% chocolates. They're pretty outstanding. There's a 90% mint chocolate, which I'm not normally a 90% girl, but I can do this one. It's really, really good. And then in terms of cacao powder, I use Navitas Organics.
Thank you. Do you have a food tip or tips for improving your skin?
Yes. So the cool thing about improving your skin is that it actually can be synonymous with improving your immune system. Many of those nutrients go hand in hand. So one of the best things that we can consume for the skin is actually vitamin C, which is like a precursor to making collagen. So anything that's very high in vitamin C, the lemons like we suggested, the goji berries like we talked about, oranges, any type of citrus, and lots of vegetables, of course, as well, such as broccoli and cauliflower. Those are going to be really fantastic foods for your skin. Of course, drinking lots of water is very, very important. And anything that's detoxifying as a whole is going to help your body flush impurities out of it. And your skin is a very, very large part of that as well. So anything that's detoxifying, like leafy greens, green powders like spirulina are really, really good. Frankly, eating healthy overall with lots of fruits and vegetables in general is like almost a shoo-in to having better skin.
Thank you. We also have a bunch of questions about food as it relates to fertility, and maybe you can answer and we can have some of the fertility doctors answer as well. The first question is, are there any diet recommendations when you're trying to have a baby?
Yeah, so you definitely want to lean on plant-based. This is a big portion of that, making sure that you're getting a lot of those micronutrients like we talked about. Omega-3s are very, very important of different varieties. If you're going the plant-based route, things like walnuts, hemp seeds, flax seeds, these are all really good sources of omega-3s. If you do consume animal products, then of course things like salmon, mackerel, that type of, those fatty fish are really good too. Lots of fiber, it's very important, and lots of antioxidants such as resveratrol, which is found in red wine, but you can also find it in grapes and fruits like mulberries. Those would be a few that come to mind at first, but I don't know if some of the doctors want to speak to that as well.
I think those are great suggestions. I mean, on a big picture level, I think one of the important things that we know for sure is that maintaining a healthy body weight. So in addition to these things in diet, but, you know, maintaining, not being underweight, not being overweight, those are other things that on top of this are we know for sure, very important for optimizing fertility. But I typically refer to people like Julie and some of our acupuncturists who do a lot of really great counseling for diet when it comes to fertility.
We also had some questions about probiotics. Are probiotics safe for pregnancy? Are they recommended for fertility? Can you speak more to that?
I'm not a physician, so I can't make specific recommendations on supplements for fertility, but I can say that in terms of foods, and probiotics would be just kind of an extension of that. That again, this is something that supports gut health, it supports immunity, and frankly, your gut microbiome is connected to virtually every single aspect of your health overall. And so the more that we can support that, the more we can support the health of that system, the more likely we are able to have healthier systems overall in the body, of course, including fertility.
Thank you. And we're getting a lot of comments about how helpful all of these tips are. Is it possible to get some of these in writing so we can then share them out with everybody afterwards?
Yeah, absolutely. And I should just mention, I do have a lot more of these tips, and some of them actually are written out. I have a big article on immunity right now and some healthy recipes on how to use some of the foods that we just talked about on my site. It's called luminberry.com, Lumin, and then berry like a berry, .com. And that's just where we have all sorts of healthy recipes and video tips and tutorials and classes and all kinds of goodness. So I will write these out, but I also invite everybody to come on over and try some out of the goodies.
Awesome, thank you. Gonna hand it back over to Tracy, who is on mute, I think.
Sorry, I wanted to unmute our next speaker, and Meredith is going to introduce our amazing co-founder of Cora. And I would love Meredith to talk a little bit about Molly. And Julie, thank you so much. And just for everyone that's tuning in and jumping in now, please write in the chat where you're from. Any of the speakers, just put your questions in there as they're speaking. And then Rebecca is going to go through and ask each speaker as we go. And then at the very end, we have some really cool kind of giveaways and discounts to share. You know, you can't have a retreat without a goodie bag, and we've got a really good virtual one from you, including from us as well. So we're excited to share so many amazing things from all these speakers. And Meredith, go ahead.
Great. So I met Molly earlier this week, virtually, of course, in preparation for today. And when I was reading about her, I found this quote on her website, which I don't know if you haven't been to her website, I thought it was great. It said, Molly is a dynamo, a stripped down, soul-seeking mega babe. And you'll see in just a second when she's on your screen, she's definitely a babe. But she truly is an inspiration and a real force. She's going to talk to us a little bit today about what she does, but she has really dedicated herself to empowering women both here in the United States as well as all over the world. She empowers them with information and education about their bodies. She empowers women to be connected to their bodies. And she has started to help people understand that, especially in other places, understanding your body or understanding your period more specifically really dictates activity and their lives and what they do. And she's really done doing some really, really incredible work. We're so, so, so grateful to have her here with us today. And on that, Molly, we're excited to have you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that introduction. Hi, everyone. It's so wonderful to be here. Thank you, Kindbody, for really pulling this together. It's a really dreary day up here in Northern California, and I don't know what the weather is like everywhere else, but it's really like kind of warming and lifting my spirits to be here and to be seeing so many faces here today. I truly feel like coming together like this at a moment like this is an act of self-care. There are a lot of other things that you could be doing right now, and you've chosen to take this moment in time to learn, to connect with other people, to take in resources that hopefully will serve you right now and really hold you. And so I just think it's really beautiful, and I'm so grateful that you're here. So as Meredith mentioned, I am the co-founder and chief brand officer of Cora. Cora is a women's wellness brand. If you're not familiar with us, we like to say that we make goods for the body that are good for your body while doing good in the world. And so really what that means is that we make women's personal care products, organic and natural products for period care, pre and postnatal care, body care. We use a significant portion of our profits to provide reproductive health education and sanitary pads to girls, both here in the US and in developing countries, mostly in India and in Kenya. And we've given about 10 million pads to date. We also, a couple of years ago, launched our editorial sister site, Blood and Milk, really because we felt like we were creating products for women, believing that it was important for all of us to be using healthier, cleaner products to manage our periods or other aspects of our bodies. And yet most of us were actually sort of still operating from an awareness and education level around our bodies that was based in like 6th grade or 9th grade health class. And the last thing we all learned was like, don't get pregnant and don't get an STD. And, you know, obviously there are so many other facets of our health. And as we go through our lives, you know, particularly as women, particularly if we choose to have children, there are just so many profound changes that we'll experience. And, you know, I certainly personally, even as informed as I felt, in some ways really began to realize as I dug deeper that I was really disconnected from my body, for one thing. I didn't understand my period or my cycle with any sort of depth or nuance. And there were so many questions that I was seeking answers to, and I was finding that there just was not a sort of unified online resource that felt like it answered not only my sort of practical questions, but also the deeper questions that just relate to this experience of life in a female body, which is like a really profound and wild ride. And so that's kind of the background there. And I wanted to mention Blood and Milk specifically because a lot of what I'm going to talk about today is derived from a document that we created called A Guide to a Better Period. And that's a free resource. You can download it on bloodandmilk.com. I'll be referencing a number of things from there. So don't feel like you have to take notes or, you know, remember everything I've said. It's all in the guide if you want to reference back to that later. I will call out a few other specific things, though, I think related to the moment in time that we're experiencing right now and just sort of how weird and wild and strange it can be, you know, at every phase of your cycle, I would argue, but definitely certainly at your period, and I'll give you some tips and insights there. But again, you know, all of the sort of more technical elements around what your hormones are doing during the different phases of your cycle, the energetics of your cycle, food, exercise, movement, all of that can be found there. So I had a really amazing teacher for a long time who taught me a lot about what it means to really be embodied in a female body with a cycle. And one of the things she always said was that it doesn't make any sense to talk about your body before you're actually in your physical body. So I know we're kind of all in different places, and most of us are like probably sitting and cozy and really, really not wanting to get up right now. So I'm not going to ask you to get up, but what I would ask you to do is just take 15, 30 seconds and just kind of stretch a little bit, move a little bit, you know, pull your shoulders, maybe do a little shake. Yeah, like just kind of feel the energy, get the energy going again. Yeah. Okay, awesome. And you just start to feel those tingles again. And that's like almost one of the most important things and points I want to make today is just how important it is to check in with your body at some point every day, whenever it occurs to you. It's not going to be, you know, all day, every day, but checking in with our bodies and really trying to see where our energy is, where our emotions are. The body is a physical instrument for tuning to emotion. So any emotion you're experiencing, there's going to be a physical sensation related to that. So getting down to brass tacks, I do want to say this is I think significant moment to consider the cycle as a whole. I know I was booked to talk about periods, but I want to go a little bit broader and talk about cycles as a whole. I think that for many of us, it is a moment where it feels like we're all sort of suspended in time, and there's a lot of unknowns, and there's a lot that we don't know. We really don't know what might happen tomorrow. We don't know what might happen in 6 months. And for many of us, our lives have been put on hold. I have friends who were going through fertility treatments who are now not going through fertility treatments, and that's a huge disruptor to their lives. Even just trying to keep track of what day it is. Is it Tuesday or is it Saturday? I don't know. I'm still just in my house. And I think it can be really disorienting. But the fact is, we are in a cycle right now. We are always in cycles. And I think, the important thing to remember is that we will come back around to where we started. And the significance of a cycle is that with every turn, you become more conscious, you become more aware, you become more experienced. And that's true for everybody, whether you're thinking about cycles this way or not. And then when it comes to our bodies, I also think it can be a really strange time. So exercise may be more or less appealing to you right now. Food habits might be different. Maybe you were super healthy when you were going into an office every day because you picked up your juice in the morning and you went and got your salad at lunchtime. And like now it's like whatever's in the back of my fridge at noon is what I'm going to eat. I can speak for myself and saying like it's been really challenging to kind of keep that level of discipline. And so clothes might feel different, your body's going to feel different. And I think also our bodies are this physical record of every emotion and every experience that we've ever had. And that's why it is so important to stay conscious of our bodies, listening to what they want and need in every moment. And I would just say in general, again, just being so gentle with ourselves right now, trying to just moment by moment say, what is it that I really need? What is it that I'm feeling? How can I just meet myself where I am right now, and say yes to whatever is being asked for. So, in addition to the kind of full guide, which again, free on bloodandmilk.com, I think it's going to be in the follow-up email that the Kindbody team will send out. I wanted to just make kind of 3 quick recommendations. So number 1 is every day, whenever it occurs to you, check in with your body. As I mentioned, it's really, I like to say that the body is the gateway to presence, and it's really true. When you're feeling your body, when you're sitting with yourself, you can't be in another place. It's one or the other. And so it's this really powerful tool for actually taking you out of that place of stress or anxiety or worry or just wonder or curiosity and really coming back into the moment. It's also, again, such a good barometer of sort of how you're feeling. And so, I think it's about on a daily basis, actively engaging your body and giving it what it might be asking for, whether that's a long bath or a hot shower or a 5-minute felt sense meditation where you're just doing a quick scan of your body. How do I feel at the top of my head? What am I feeling in my face? What am I feeling in my neck? What am I feeling in my chest, my shoulders, my back, my rib cage, my hips, my thighs, my calves, my feet, my hands? All of these things are just firing off for us what is actually, coming in through us, out of us. And it can just be really powerful to slow down for a few minutes every day and just check in with that. The information you might get is like, go for a run. I mean, run around your living room, do yoga in your kitchen, stand in the shower for 30 minutes and just, cry. I've done that. But I think it is just like listening to what your body wants and going with that. The second is tracking your cycle. There are so many great apps for that. And, it allows you to really mark each phase of your cycle. And again, this is all in the guide. And really doing one thing during that phase to recognize it, to honor it. It helps to really, pace out time throughout the cycle, as I mentioned. And then the last thing I'll say is just around period care specifically. So when you're on your period, number one, focus on staying warm. So warm clothing, heat patches, hot baths or showers, warm foods. Number two, consider a new way of managing your period. Being at home, you might want to try a menstrual cup for the first time, period underwear. You might want to try free bleeding. If you're a tampon user your whole life, you might want to try a pad. Like, this is a moment in time where it might actually feel more comfortable to try those things. And then the third thing around your period specifically, I would say, is just honoring the natural desire for withdrawal and isolation. So if you feel like you need to be alone, if you're feeling sensitive to other people, honor that, go with it, retreat and take some time for yourself. And I think I saw one question in the chat box around cycle tracking apps. There are a couple that I like. Natural Cycles is one, and Clue is the other. And there are a ton of others out there, and I'm sure people have had experiences with them. They can recommend them.
Molly, it's Molly.
Hi, Molly. I was just
Oh, hi.
Yeah, I just wanted to say something to Molly. I literally just got like a huge, once monthly, twice monthly package delivered yesterday of all my Cora.
Oh, amazing.
I know.
Well, it's good to see you.
I know. I'm like, Northern California.
I know.
Molly and I actually work together. I'm a big believer in Cora. And just the way that she gives back, the way that she honors her body, and the way that she speaks to women, and I think it's a really important, to have a company like Cora and all the information, especially with like Blood and Milk, which you guys can go to, because it's really important when you are deciding to freeze or the months before, like knowing your cycle, knowing like, am I going to get crazy? Do I not get crazy? How do I feel? Because it's going to be amplified once you start the fertility process. And I think really tracking that and knowing that and honoring that before you even start is really important. And also, I mean, even if you're not freezing right now, it's important to know when you're not going to be, you're going to be your yuckiest self to someone. Yeah. So I was just like, I just put in the notes about, like, I use this one called Flow, and it's 4 days, people.
Yeah. Could get dicey.
But Molly, you're awesome.
And thank you. I know I've got the super Molly power today, and we're going to move into Meredith's I have to introduce, because Molly Sims we've worked together. We fought like cats and dogs together. We love hard, Molly Sims and I, and I'm honestly has been my strongest fertility warrior buddy. And we've really gone through tears and so many different things through our journey.
Shots and frozen peas.
I know. We've done it all together. And so again, I'm so happy to have her here, because we're about being real girls and real just humans and having a real conversation. So I'm going to let Meredith take it over and really just have a great conversation. And again, our practice is proudly inclusive. We celebrate anybody who wants to try to have a baby. We believe that it is everyone's right to have the family of their dreams. Today, we're really just talking about what does fertility preservation look like for egg freezing and embryo freezing. But know that, again, we are going to continue like giving content and sharing stories and talking to women and men that have gone through surrogacy with families. And this is just the initial conversation to kick us off and have a conversation. So Meredith, take it away. And yay, Molly, thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you, Molly. Okay, I'm going to do my best here to share some slides. So you can let me know if I succeed or fail. How to do.
You can well.
Great, thanks. So as Tracy said, thank you so much, Molly, for being here today. Molly is probably most of you know, she's an actress and she's an entrepreneur and she's a model. She's also a mother of 3 small children that she's chasing around at her house right now.
I'm locked in a room right now.
She's happy to be here because she got to lock herself in a room.
I know, my husband's upstairs. I'm like, you cannot come down for exactly 56 minutes.
So, but anyway, we appreciate you taking the time, because the other thing that Molly has done is be a fertility advocate, which is really a big deal for anyone who's ever experienced infertility or undecided to undergo fertility preservation. It can be a very, very isolating experience. It's a very private experience for a lot of people, which is fine. It can be a private thing, but it leads to people feeling alone. And a lot of people deal with this in isolation. So it is a really big deal that Molly has spoken out about her experience so that people can feel more normal, and know that there's other people that, she's a face that people recognize, and she's, willing to get on here today to talk about her personal experience is a really big deal. And we're very grateful for that. So thank you, Molly. As Tracy mentioned, at Kindbody, we do a lot of things. We really offer a full spectrum of care for everyone who is, from planning to be pregnant, so helping to counsel people on how to do that or how to optimize everything, to helping people who are trying to get pregnant, to fertility preservation, to third-party reproduction, to serving a community who require donated sperm, donated eggs, surrogates to conceive. We do everything. Today, we are going to mostly focus on fertility preservation as the topic of our discussion. Otherwise, we would be here all day. And then you have been introduced to Kindbody a little bit. We really do our best at Kindbody to change the way that care is provided. Our goal is really to offer care in spaces that are comfortable and non-clinical. We sit around round tables. We try to make the space feel safe and comfortable and inviting. We have providers that are warm and welcoming. Everybody from the person who greets you at the door to the doctor that you see to the person who does your ultrasound. So that is our commitment to our patients. And I want to introduce some of our team. Tracy, do we have our doctors here? I think we have a really wonderful team of physicians. And I think some of them are here. So if you are here, please wave. In San Francisco, we have Dr. Serena Dovey, who's our fertility specialist up in San Francisco. In New York, we have 2 fertility specialists, Dr. Nicole Brown and Dr. Amy Sundemrong. You can call her Dr. Amy because I think I probably just said her last name wrong. It's a tough one. And then Dr. Fahima Sassan is our gynecologist out of New York. We do also offer general gynecologic care. So I think most of them are on the call, and they're going to be helping to field questions, and they're part of our wonderful team too. So if you're here, everybody wave so that people can see you. Again, this is just redundant but our commitment at Kindbody is to provide care that's warm, welcoming, accessible, and affordable. That's also part of our mission. And just briefly, I think our talk wouldn't be complete without acknowledging, as Molly the other Molly just did, is that this is a moment, this sort of unprecedented moment in time that's bringing us together today, where I think we're all a little anxious about the uncertainty, but we have patients who have been forced to stop treatment, and we just wanted to take a second to acknowledge that we know how hard that is. So for anyone who's experienced infertility, a day feels like a month, and a month feels like an eternity. So to be forced to wait a month or 2 months or 3 months, or to not even know how long you're going to have to wait, is a very strange and unusual form of torture. And we recognize that. We're going to do whatever we can to support you in other ways during this time. And, our commitment is that as soon as it is safe to provide services, safe for you, safe for our communities, safe for our Kindbody family, we will be open that same day, and probably honestly providing care in a different way where we, continue to keep you safe in the office. So we'll let you know when that moment happens. Molly number 1, referred to this fact that as females, people don't really educate us much on our fertility, right? Or how to get pregnant. There's a lot of information about how not to get pregnant, right? Molly alluded to it. When you're a teenager, don't get pregnant, don't get an STD. And we get so much information about that, right? But does anybody talk to us about how to try when you start trying? Does anybody talk to us about what's actually happening in our cycle? When in a cycle would you try if you wanted to? Does anyone talk to us about the process of ovarian aging, right? Which is real. No matter how well we take care of ourselves with all the stuff we're talking about today, our ovaries will age. And unfortunately, it's just a certainty, and nobody educates us on that. So that is really part of our mission at Kindbody, is to change that, to help educate anybody and everybody who wants that information. So two of the things, so this process of ovarian aging that I'm alluding to, what's actually happening is two things, right? We are born as females. Every female here today is born with all the eggs we're ever going to have in our ovaries the day we're born, right? Melanie, you're crazy, right? It's crazy. They're just
Crazy. And no one ever tells you that.
No one ever tells you that. So one of my questions for Molly in a second will be, who was the first person to tell you that? How old were you when you realized that you were born with all the eggs you're ever going to have? When did you have access to that information?
For me, I think when I was like 36, 37, I started talking with my OB, who's an incredible OB, Dr. Michelle Hakaka.
She's awesome.
And she just was like, well, I was like, well, how many eggs, do you think I'm making? And she goes, it's how many eggs am I losing? So that was, I was like, wait, come again? And that's really the first time that I'd ever, in my mid 30s, did I even know that you were born with the amount of eggs, and that not only will you not ever make any more, but you will lose anywhere. I think your statistic is 1,000 a month. So it was a little bit, no one had ever taught me that.
Yeah, and Molly's lucky because she has a really wonderful gynecologist, right? So I happen to know Dr. Hakaka. She's really great, and she does a really good job of trying to bring that awareness to her patients. But she's in rare company. Most gynecologists are not doing that, and I think that that's changing. And I think that Kindbody is doing a good job of helping to change that. But as Molly just alluded to, we're not gaining anymore. We just lose eggs every month.
But the conversation definitely, you cannot wait to have that conversation. If I think about how ludicrous learning that in my mid 30s, like those conversations needs to start happening in your 20s.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I remember my husband, we were walking down the halls of the IVF clinic, and we were looking at all of these statistics, and he's like, holy shit. You need to know what you don't know. You need to know the statistics that no one tells you.
Right.
And especially at that time, it was a horrible, dirty little secret. But
right, that's right. And I think that a lot of people feel that way. So that's true. And then the other thing that's happening is that the quality of the eggs are changing, right? So in addition to losing eggs all the time, the quality of the eggs declines. So again, these menstrual cycles, what's actually happening in a cycle for somebody who's not conscious, who's not on birth control pills or the NuvaRing, is that every month a female starts with a group of eggs, and then the body selects one. So in the middle of the cycle, somewhere at the time of ovulation, a female will release one egg. And if you have unprotected sex at that time, you can potentially get pregnant. Well, the problem is that we're not always releasing a normal egg. Never. Even when you're in your 20s, you're not always releasing a normal egg. But as we get older, we release abnormal eggs more frequently. And the destiny of those abnormal eggs most of the time is to not create a pregnancy. Sometimes they create pregnancies and ultimately result in a miscarriage. And every once in a while, in the most rare form, can form a pregnancy that's chromosomally abnormal. So that's why we see, as we get older, rates of infertility go up, rates of miscarriage go up, and the chances for a chromosomally abnormal conception also go up. And it's all related to this egg quality issue. So again, there are things that are certainly bad for egg quality. Smoking cigarettes, smoking marijuana, cocaine, being obese. There are certain things that we know are really bad for egg quality. And egg quality is largely linked to age. There's some good things that we can do too that we're hearing about today, but there's only so much you can do to disconnect the quality from the age. And no matter how healthy you are, how well you take care of yourself, there will be some decline in egg quality. And unfortunately, egg quality isn't something we can measure. We're going to talk about in a second, like measuring egg quantity and what we do at fertility assessments, but we can't measure the quality of anybody's eggs. And again, here's the whole problem. No one's figured out how to stop this, right? No one has figured out how to stop this process of normal ovarian aging. And so that's where fertility preservation comes into play. And as Molly's alluding to, it's about education. Like she's saying that in her 36, 37, she had a gynecologist who brought this to her awareness. But we at Kindbody, we want to do what she's sort of alluding to, like, you don't have to do anything ever, but let's get the information, learn about yourself, learn about your menstrual cycles, what's actually happening, what is your ovarian reserve like, what are your reproductive goals, what are just we encourage you to sort of, when you sit with us, what are they, when do you think you want to have children, ideally what does that look like for you, how many children do you want to have, just helping everybody to at least come to terms with what their reproductive goals are. And we encourage everybody to be proactive in obtaining that information.
And I also think that's one great thing about your company, that you don't, especially, years ago, fertility, it was a dirty word, but it was very complicated. And I think you guys have definitely done an amazing job of taking as much as it is a complicated, emotional, physical, crazy experience that you're about to embark on, but you also make it very simple for women to understand. What is an FSH level? It's this. What is an AMH level? It's this. What do you need? It's a simple 1, 2, and 3. And I think that's really, I'm so happy the conversation has gone positive in that way in the past, 5, 7 years, plus that, even almost 10 years now, that let's not overcomplicate it. Let's make it simple. And again, at the end of the day, there's no judgment. Just start to have those conversations. You may have the conversation of like, what do I want to do? At 22, I didn't want to have a baby. I wanted to be crazy, live in Europe, live around the world. I'm like a cat, like 9 lives. But start to have those little conversations because you just want to know, you know what I mean? Like even now I would say in your 20s, check your ovarian, check your your reserve, just to know that number, put that number away. Don't worry about it. You know what I mean? But knowledge is everything. And yeah. I used to have a whole thing of like, oh, what's meant to be is meant to be. I'm actually writing a book about it. And it's just not. Things are not meant to be. You take the steps to make them meant to be. And it's really hard. And sometimes you don't want to hear it, but have the conversations. That's the first thing. And really dig deep, even if you don't want to hear the bad news or the good news, have those conversations.
Yeah. And that's exactly right. And I think that, like Molly said, just sit and have a conversation so that you can be encouraged to answer those questions. Right. So
you don't have to tell anybody.
Yeah.
Or you can share it to the whole world or your girl groups or whoever.
Right.
It's honestly just get the information because it can be very powerful when you decide to use it or not.
Yeah. And so that's another one of my questions for you, Molly, is that you obviously were a planner here, right? So maybe in your 20s you weren't, you were kind of letting things be as they were, but was it just that conversation with Dr. Hakaka, or what was it for you that said, okay, I'm going to learn about this. I'm going to learn about my body. I'm going to answer these questions for myself. What made you actually go to do that?
I mean, I have a great relationship with my mother, and she was really amazing. We're going to an OB, we're having, hard conversations. Her number one rule is, dear God, never get pregnant. She's Southern. And an STD, but she wouldn't say that word. But I had the conversation. I was always I've always been one to take care of my body. My mom taught me that. Go to my doctor's appointments, do what I need to do. I had a really good role model in that way. Mine, unfortunately, kind of came out of nowhere, which is probably not the best thing because I was playing pregnant. I was playing pregnant on a TV show, and I was in my mid-30s. And I had gotten dumped real bad with this boy I thought I was going to marry.
Ew, what's wrong with that person?
Oh, well, around. Boo, I know you're out there. But and then I was in a really slightly codependent. I got into a really, Tracy, we don't need to tell everything, but I was in a really bad a very codependent relationship, and I kind of started to kind of figure out like the old meant to be conversation was starting to hit me pretty hard, and I basically woke up one day and I'm like, I want to get married. I want to have a baby. And I took it upon myself, I think, because I was playing pregnant, and it sounds weird to say that, but like every day for like however long we shot, 9 months, I would basically wear part of the belly. And I don't know, it just hit me. And I went and made a doctor's appointment with an IVF specialist. And, he was like, I think you should do this. And he was very, a big believer in, doing this now and doing this early. I really wanted to do eggs. I thought possibly I was going to meet my prince at some point. I did not like what he had to say. My fertility was okay at that point. I was 35 or 36 years old. I did not speak to him for about a year and a half. I can't remember now, because I was so upset when he was like, I think you need a sperm donor. And I'm like, no. I just want to know. I need to know what I need to do. What does egg freezing look like? And what would this journey and this path? And so he told me, I took blood levels, I sat on it, and I sat on it, and I sat on it. And then ultimately, I ended up meeting my husband, and against many people's advice, including some of my best friends, I decided to bite the bullet and ask him if he would possibly freeze embryos with me. Now, that's called crazy, but I had nothing to lose, because if he didn't want to make a baby with me, he didn't want to marry me.
Yeah.
And I just was like, this is what I'm going to do. And I totally respected that if he didn't want to do it, I was still going to freeze my eggs.
Yeah.
And he was on board, from day one. And, I think I needed it. I needed that insurance policy, and I didn't have really anybody to talk to. Tracy was my number one go-to boo. Yeah. But, no one that I knew was doing it. And I just was like, I don't know. I just needed it. And I did it in January and February of 2011. And believe it or not, I got pregnant on my honeymoon the week after September 24th. And I swear, I know this is going to sound crazy, but I swear, I think I had done it. And so I was relaxed enough to actually get pregnant. And that sounds cuckoo for Cocoa, but if you've gone through fertility and had children, there's a little bit of luck and fate and all things mixed into making that baby. And I believe my freezing of embryos and eggs had a lot to do with that.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much for sharing that story. So I'm actually gonna end up touching upon a lot of the things that Molly just mentioned in her sharing her story. The whole process, as she said, starts with a consultation, right? She went to see a doctor, and as I've sort of said many times now, a lot of that visit is understanding who you are, where you're at in your life, what your reproductive goals are, right? Do you want 1 children? Do you want 5? Do you want to be pregnant now? Do you want to be pregnant in 6 years? Do you have a partner? What are your thoughts on a donated sperm, right? So really understanding where you're coming from and sort of encouraging you, if not forcing you, to think about those things, and providing you with resources and support to do that, so that we can sort of create a plan that works for you based on who you are and what your goals are. And we measure your ovarian reserve, as Molly said she had done. That gets done typically with an ultrasound that actually visualizes the ovary and counts up the resting follicles. There's blood work. She mentioned some of the blood work, the AMH test, the FSH test. Those are all measures of egg quantity or ovarian reserve. And then we again remind you, we can't measure the quality. We wish we could, but we can't. And then again, today's conversation is about preservation. Molly did preservation, and when she preserved, just she, like everybody else, has two options. Do you want to freeze your eggs, or do you want to freeze your embryos? And it's a big decision to make. Freezing an embryo requires a sperm source, and whether that's from a boyfriend or a husband or a donated sperm, there has to be some sperm there. The reality is the process up until the day of the egg retrieval is identical, whether you freeze an egg or you freeze a sperm. So until from the day you start to the day the eggs come out, the process is the same. And then the day of the egg retrieval, either you freeze the eggs or freeze the embryos. So we're going to walk through the process here. I'm going to engage Molly to tell us a little bit about what that process was like for her. And then at the end, we will talk about sort of the pros and cons of eggs versus embryos. Again, all of this is about pressing pause, right? So we're losing eggs, the quality declines, we can't stop that. So what fertility preservation does is it sort of says, okay, well, I'm going to take my current egg quality, whether I'm 32 or 35 or 37 or 38, however old you are, freeze the quality of those eggs such that if I need them in the future, the quality of those eggs will be based on your age at the time you froze them and not your age at the time that you use them. So this process involves injections of hormones, right? So you would be taught to give yourself injections in the lower part of your tummy, which you have to take for anywhere from 8 to 12 days. And the purpose of those injections is to stimulate as many eggs as possible to grow at any given moment in time. So as I mentioned, in a normal menstrual cycle, you grow one egg or follicle, as we call it, and all the other eggs that were available that month that didn't get chosen die. And what will we do in this process of ovarian stimulation is we want as many of those as possible to grow. So we want everybody to grow and nobody to die, ideally. So you're not any worse off at the end. We're just sort of rescuing these eggs from their destiny of death and trying to get as many eggs as possible to grow at once. So again, we ask a lot of people. So I'm going to have Molly tell us a little bit about what was that like to mix injections, to inject yourself? Did you do it? Did somebody do it for you? Physically, how did it feel? Emotionally, how did it feel?
I just also want to start also on a positive. I think when people talk about freezing, they think, oh my God, it's going to take forever. It's actually 12 to 14 days of your life. Like, yeah. I know it sounds crazy to make it so minimal and really be exact, but that's really it. I mean, the first few days you're being monitored. Listen, I'm not going to lie to you. I cried when I mixed my first follicle. I don't even know what gonorrhea, whatever it was. My hands were shaking. I was crying. I was a disaster. I spilled part of it, which is so freaking expensive. Was crying because it's expensive and I spilled part of it. I messed up the pin 100 times. But it was actually not that hard. I mean, I did it several times. So I became like, oh, I'll do you. I did all my girlfriends. I did Tracy did me. Like, it's just, I watch the videos, like they're like show, like I would have the nurse like try to show me how to do it. But again, it was just my nerves. It wasn't that complicated. Were you a little black and blue? A little bit, but it wasn't like everything I made it up in my head to be like, oh my God, I'm going to have to give myself shots. Right. It really wasn't. And I guess I say this in a way to not like worry about it. I cannot stand shots. I pretty much faint at the sight of blood. After going through this, having 3 babies, C-sections, I can tell you it's nothing. It's fine. Just you do it. Once you do it 3 times, you're like, I got this. And it's weird how you just do it. You get in that mindset. It's kind of like a little bit about what Molly said. You just, you get in that mindset and you go, and you're like, okay, game on. We're 2 weeks. We are game on. And the good thing about egg freezing or freezing embryos is you have a finish line.
Yeah.
You know, you really do. Like, it's not going to last forever. But the mixing of the shots, I mean, I shed a tear.
The mixing is hard. The mixing is hard. And you know, like Ismail said, it's a really intense period of time. It is short. It's finite. It starts and then it ends, and it, you know,
And I also think emotionally, you know, you go through, like, I'm not gonna lie, a hell of a roller coaster. But again, you're gonna go into the finish line in 2 weeks and it's gonna be done. And I think if women can really look at that short amount of time and what that short amount of time can push pause, can have an insurance policy, give you something that you don't know. Because again, you don't, until you know those numbers. What's even worse is that those numbers go down, and sometimes they go down worse at 37, 38, 39. Sometimes you have years that will drop faster. I mean, I'm not a scientist and everything, and Dr. Meredith can tell you guys more about that, but like, there's years where my fertility never changed, and then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah. And that's all true. And I do think that the emotional experience, you know, you'll see a lot of us during that period of time. So you also want to be in a space where you feel comfortable, right? You'll be going to the doctor sort of every other day, seeing the same faces every other day. And, you know, part of our goal is to help you feel comfortable both with what you're doing at home, but also just supported in the process. So that's great. And then just to move on, so you take these injections, and then here's getting close to the finish line, right? So finally we tell you, today is your last day of shots. You take one last shot, and we call it your trigger shot. It has to be done at a very specific time. We write and highlight this time, set an alarm, call us after you do it, email us after you do it, you know, because there is one sort of high pressure shot that needs to be done at a very specific time, because then we do the egg retrieval 35 to 36 hours later. And the day of the egg retrieval is really the one day that you're out of commission. So the rest of the time, we're asking a lot of you, you're coming to the doctor, you're injecting yourself, but you can go to work, you can go to parties, you can go about your normal activities. We'll restrict your exercise, but you can go for a walk or a bike ride or do things that feel good to you. The day of the egg retrieval, you get anesthesia. You'll need somebody there to support you. And if you have a sperm source, you'll need your sperm source there to provide a specimen the day of the egg retrieval. And the procedure itself lasts about 10 to 20 minutes. You get sort of a heavy twilight sedation. And while you're sleeping, your doctor will pass a needle right through the wall of the vagina and into the ovary to take an egg out of every single follicle on both ovaries. So there's no incisions. You know, you're tired from the anesthesia, crampy. The more eggs you get, typically the more sore that you are. But, you know, the procedure itself, people are often back to work the next day. So Molly, you want to tell us a little bit about your egg retrieval day, what you remember?
Yeah, well, I remember my trigger shot, because it's right, it has to be very specific. And I was actually on a birthday with my girlfriends, and we were all dressed up, and I'm like telling my fiance at the time, I was like, or not even fiance, just my boyfriend at the time, I'm like, oh my God, we've got to go back into the room. We've got to, like, I had the trigger shot, I had everything. And literally I was in like a dress, and like, it has to be very specific, but we always laugh at that moment. I'm like, oh my God, I'm like, here I was triggering my shot. Like, I was triggering in the middle of, they're like, it has to be done at 9 o'clock. But the actual day I was really scared and nervous. I had no idea what to expect. I don't think I'd ever at that point gone under for any reason that I can remember. But I had a really good doctor, really great nurses around me. And I remember waking up and being like, that's it. Like,
right.
Like, I was like, wait, are you sure you got all of them? Anyway, it was very easy. I mean, I know some people have, you know, nausea from like the anesthesia, or you feel kind of yucky, but honestly, I felt a little bloated. I mean, I was so happy for someone to say, please don't exercise. So that was a great moment. But I think at the end of that 14 days, I was ready, but I was also very relieved. I was like, okay, I almost like remember taking a deep breath and thinking like, okay, I did it. I did it. Like I did it. It wasn't so bad, like having these crazy conversations in my head and then I'd burst into tears, but I got through it. And honestly, it wasn't scary at all in terms of like the actual procedure.
Yeah, and I'd say that's really common. Almost everyone, when I sort of am greeting them as they come out of anesthesia, says, "Are you done? Is it over? Are you exactly that? And you're done. It's over." So again, the procedure itself is it's sort of a minimal impact procedure. One of the most common questions that I get is, well, how many eggs do I have to freeze? How many embryos do I have to freeze? And that again gets back to you as an individual. The prognosis for the eggs really depends on how old you are when you freeze them and the number of eggs that you have frozen. We like to say sort of if you're in your 20s or early 30s, 10 eggs gives you a significantly improved chance of a baby in the future. But again, you have to think about how old you are and how many kids you want and how old will you be when you're trying. And all those things will sort of impact what you ultimately decide is your goal for the number of eggs or embryos to have frozen. The other thing is that the other question I get is, well, what's average? What's the average number of eggs to get? And there is no average. You have to just compare yourself to yourself, not to your friend or to your colleague, but everybody will have their own personal ovarian reserve. And what you can expect to get is really based on your individual ovarian reserve, which is why that's an important thing to measure.
And I think that's really important for people because your best friend might get 20 and you might get 2. A friend of mine, she's frozen her eggs. I think this is her 8th time and she's gotten 2 every time, which is a very low number, but she's accepted it. And she was like, okay, that's okay. It's going to take, it's rough. I'm not going to lie, but you cannot compare yourself to someone.
No,
You cannot.
That's right. Whether the cycle goes well or not well is about comparing yourself to yourself and not to anybody else. It is very, very important. And it's a hard thing to do. If you do preserve, then Molly had to decide, am I going to do eggs? Am I going to do embryos? And the big upside to doing the embryos is that you get a lot more information about what's in the freezer. So when you make an embryo, right, you get to know, do the eggs fertilize? Do those embryos develop? You can even genetically test those embryos. So you just have a lot more information about what the actual insurance policy is. The downside, of course, is that you are always and forever committed to that sperm source. So should you want to get pregnant in the future with a different sperm source, you won't be able to use those embryos. You can't unfertilize the eggs. And the reality is, if you use a partner and not a donated sperm, you will always need the consent. If something happens to you and that partner, you will need the consent of both partners to ever use those embryos in the future. Eggs allow you to use them however you want with any sperm source in the future, but you just don't have a lot of information. We can only tell you there's 2 eggs or 10 eggs or 20 eggs. We can't tell you anything about the quality of those eggs. So you just get a lot less information about what that insurance policy entails for you. Whether or not to do this in general, right? It's a very personal choice. It is the one thing that we do have to offer individuals to increase the likelihood of having a baby with their own eggs in the future. But I always remind people, there's a lot of ways to start families, right? There are donated eggs, donated embryos, adoption. So it's not for everybody. There's many, many ways to start families. And I think the other thing Molly alluded to at the very beginning, the peace of mind, right? She did this. She didn't know if it would be a baby in the future. She didn't know if she would ever need them, but it made her feel at peace. And the reality is that not a lot of people come back to use these. As we understand it right now, studies are showing that less than 20% of people actually come back to use their eggs or embryos. But if you survey those people, over 95% say that they're happy they did it. And I think a lot of that comes
I don't even know if this is like true or not, so I don't want to spread something that's true, but like I've had girlfriends do fertility treatments to try to have a baby. They go through the process and literally 2 months later they're pregnant because somehow, and this is so not scientific. So I don't know, does it kickstart like your system, or like, I know it sounds weird, but like I always say that, I'm like, maybe just try it. Like,
It's not weird. And I get that question a lot. And I don't know, I think there's some selection bias in that, because the people who don't get pregnant 2 months later are at home crying. They're not out talking to people and about how they got pregnant. But I do think that there's something to be said for, I don't think stress is the reason. When people come into my office and they've been trying for a year and everyone's like, oh, if you just relax, you'll get pregnant. You know, that's not helpful and constructive, and it's not true either. But I do think that there's something about just feeling like you did what you could when you could, right? So no matter what happens to you in the future, whether you use them or don't, or get pregnant or not, knowing, but at that moment where you have this choice, that that's the choice you've made, people find a lot of peace in that. And I think it's good for you in general. Whether, is it good for your fertility? Maybe. I mean, I think maybe there's something to that, but certainly I think it's good for a person as a whole as well. The major downside, right? This is not a guarantee of a pregnancy. We wish that it were, but as we help people plan, we like to help them remember, like, this is great. And if you do it, this is what your insurance policy means. And for nobody is it a guarantee. So just reminding people of that just because you froze doesn't mean, so Molly, right? She froze, but she still tried to get pregnant on her honeymoon, right? She didn't wait 3 more years to try to get pregnant. She knew she wanted a family. She tried right away. So we always encourage, as soon as you feel like you're ready, don't wait just because you have something frozen, because these frozen things aren't necessarily a guarantee.
but also another thing too, I think at the end of the day, if it doesn't happen, and I'm a believer that if you want your babies, you'll get your babies. It's like Dr. Meredith said, you can adopt, you've frozen. There's a million different ways. I always say that to people, and it's just like, I believe in that. But there's also something to be said that if you can't, and you have gone through this process, that you have done all that you can do.
Yeah.
And that also gives you a certain amount of peace. And at the end of the day, I think when anyone feels like they've done their best, that's all you can do.
Yeah.
Good or bad, it's all you can do.
Yep. I think that's really true, and really a really important thing to remember. What, a couple more things. I think we're running long here. So again, we always encourage people to get the information, whatever it is, good, bad, or otherwise, just come get the information. And as our other Molly said, learn about your body, learn about your cycles. What is ovarian aging? What is that process? Just to being empowered with that knowledge. Just a couple things, again, as I've sort of said, one of our goals at Kindbody is to try to make this accessible and affordable. And Tracy and Rebecca, everybody, we'll have some virtual goodie bags, and part of the Kindbody goodie bag gift is to just decrease the cost of any sort of virtual assessment that we can do for you, down to $50, to decrease the cost of cycles with this code that they have here. I'm just going to say we accept insurances. We accept all insurances. We'll also make sure that your max out of pocket isn't more than that $50. And we have, billing people, and I'm probably going to get in trouble because I'm not good at talking about this stuff, but who can help you. But again, our goal is to try to make this accessible to anybody and everybody. Again, we also offer other wellness services. We're going to continue to do virtual events to support our community, but we also have our own counselors and therapists and nutrition coaches and third-party counseling to support our patients who are trying to get pregnant. I think that's it. Yeah. Right.
Okay, let me get Rebecca's going to take some questions. I know we've had, and thank you, Kindbody team. We've had our doctors and physician assistants, Hina and Erica. Big shout out to you guys as well for answering the questions. And Molly, I just say, loose lips sink ships. We've got a lot of, we know where our bodies are buried, and I appreciate more than anything for you to come and be a part of this conversation, because it truly is like a conversation that starts around your table with your girlfriends, and to have this group on such a great global level from around the world to really share and empower is awesome. So something I've always admired about Molly is she says what's on her mind, and good, bad, or otherwise. But really it's about the tips and tricks and helping other girls out. Like, let's be like that girl gang that is like, no, we're not going to try to hide this information. We want to tell you to share it and connect. And it's really at our foundation what Kindbody is all about, is accessible healthcare and being together and connecting and sharing information. So Rebecca, I know you've been mad on chat and in the chat box, so please share with us some questions.
Also, I just wanted to say one thing. You guys have an amazing guest host that's coming on in a little while. Her name's Lori Bregman. I did 3 pregnancies with Lori. I did before, beginning, and after. She is incredible. You guys have to follow her. She put me on this fertility smoothie. It's all about maca. I'm going to let her talk about that. She sets my intentions. She like talked me off a ledge many times. She's incredible. She got me into acupuncture. She did some things, and I think you guys should follow Lori, follow Molly with bloodandmilk.com. And like Dr. Meredith said, really start to know your body. I think it's so, so important. Be real with yourself, know what you want, and go after it, because you've got the power to do it. And I believe in you guys. Some from questions.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's so nice and inspiring to hear your story. We have a lot of people in the chat who can relate to you, a lot of people who are feeling anxious about their fertility future. Molly, what tips do you have on ways to stay calm despite fears about where you're going?
Walking, meditating, acupuncture helped me so much. I went to a woman named Dr. Jing. She's an old Chinese woman, doesn't speak much English, and she forced me to drink these god-awful herbs that I was like, oh, it's like drinking mud. But I did it, and I did it every single day for months. I mean, even before I ended up doing it, Lori put me on a really good program, even before I decided to freeze. She can talk more about maca and all bee pollen and all the shit she made me do. But honestly, just taking deep breaths, knowing there's a finish line, knowing you can do it, knowing that I'm doing something for me and hopefully a family. Like I think just literally taking one day at a time. Like once I got through my shots, I'm like, okay. And then the next day, and I had like a calendar and I would mark it off. And it's like, I have a first grader now and I have his calendar and we marked it off till spring break. But that's honestly what I would do, is like take a deep breath and be like, okay, there's an end in sight.
Yeah. Thanks. And do you have tips on how to connect with other women who are experiencing this? Do you just ask your friends if anyone's doing this, or how did you go about
Now there's Facebook groups, and I mean, Kindbody didn't even exist for someone like me, where I could go and feel free to ask questions. I mean, I literally have to always talk to Tracy about, like, we should literally write like a fertility for dummies book, like coding for dummies, Spanish for dummies. Like, there was no one at that time, which made me really isolated and really fearful and really like I was doing something dirty. So I had a lot of things to overcome, just because I didn't have a group to be able to speak to about. I didn't have anyone besides a few of my friends who really understood and helped me and would read different articles. And now I'm so grateful for, Kindbody and different groups. And my OB is amazing to just sit down and listen to me. And Lori has an amazing, she's a wealth of information. I think you have to put yourself out there. I think go on good, reputable sites. Don't do anything crazy because you don't need to. I think there's as much amazing information on the internet. There's also some really bad information on the internet. But I think talking about it really helps. I just do. I do.
Definitely agree. Thank you. And Dr. Brower, there are some questions for you. There are numbers specifically about what's happening right now with coronavirus, and if you have suggestions for what people should be thinking about now. Should they be putting off fertility care? How can they get ready if they are putting it off?
Those are good questions. Right now, unfortunately, we're all forced to be putting off fertility treatments. You don't have to put off all fertility care. That was really a huge motivation for today, is to try to help people understand what are the things that they can do when they're being forced to pause in this really horrible, not horrible, just really, challenging way. As far as, we have mandates from the CDC and the Surgeon General and ASRM to pause fertility treatments, not because they're not essential or they're elective. We all know, right? This is not elective and this is essential, but it's not life-saving. And so really the world as it is today, only life-saving things should be done to preserve resources and minimize transmission again, so we as the human race, right, can get back to life as normal. And so that's where we're at right now. I think, I don't know for sure, but probably regionally things will slowly start to open up again. And the minute that, and I think, it's going to be different from region to region depending on how things are going as far as this war we're fighting. I think things will slowly start to open up. We'll be ready to go the minute that we can. And like I said, we'll probably do things a little different. We're probably going to be wearing masks in the clinic and wiping down surfaces and limiting the people in the office just so we can keep you safe when we do. So our commitment to you is that we will do that and let you know the second it happens. Now, as far as things you can do at home, and we can't really change the time course of that. I think the virus is going to sort of dictate when that all happens, the guidance and our leadership, both at Kindbody as well as from these bigger organizations. Now, the things that you can do at home, hopefully we're trying to address those for you today, and we're going to keep doing so every week. Every week we're going to try to have something for you. And whether it's like Sarah said at the beginning, starting a mindfulness practice, starting meditation, if it's looking on Julie's website and diet, those kind of things, exercise, supporting yourself emotionally. We have a therapist speaking with us at the end of the retreat today. So those kind of things are the things we recommend doing, and we will continue with this retreat and kind of a weekly event trying to give you ideas of things you could do at home.
Thank you. And we have a question about if you're trying to get pregnant, at what point should you start to worry and go seek help for not getting pregnant?
That's a good question. It probably depends a little bit on how old you are and whether or not you're having regular periods and whether or not you know when you're ovulating, right? So some people have no idea when they're ovulating. They're not quite sure how to do this. Go see somebody right away. Go tomorrow. Get a virtual consult tomorrow. Let us help you figure out how to do this, right? Because there actually is only a couple days in the whole month when you're fertile. And it's, as we've talked about, nobody tells you that, right? So when are those days? How do you identify those days? So if you're confused now, okay, if you're not confused, you feel like it's going well, you have some information, you know when to have intercourse. If you're less than 35, certainly by a year, a lot of people tend to be a little bit more proactive and they might do it before then, even if they don't start treatment, just to have an evaluation. And certainly anyone 35 or older by 6 months, you should come in for an evaluation.
Thanks. We have some questions about the men and the male's role in this. How much of fertility or infertility has to do with the man?
Yes, we forget about that, right? Every female who walks into the office who's not getting pregnant assumes it's her fault. There's just, I don't know what that is. There's something about us. We just assume it's us. But the reality is that a third of couples who are having a hard time getting pregnant have some male factor infertility. The male's role is important. It is true that the sort of infertility in male, or the process of like aging and its impact on fertility, happens later in men. Sperm production is regenerative, so they're not just stuck with all the sperm they ever had. They get to make new sperm cells, so it is a little bit different, but it's a very important factor. And certainly in any couple who's trying to get pregnant, if there's any issues, we would evaluate the male. And sometimes even now when people are coming in to be evaluated before they even start, I say, hey, if you're going to check your egg numbers, let's check the sperm numbers too. It takes two to tango.
Thank you. We have a question for Molly. Molly, if you're comfortable sharing, did you end up using your embryos or did you get pregnant naturally?
I ended up getting pregnant naturally. I still have them. I'm going to be 90, but I still have them. We'll see.
That is related to another question we got. How long can eggs or embryos stay frozen? What is the oldest that you'd be able to use frozen eggs or embryos?
I actually, Dr. Meredith, I don't know. Tracy, I don't know.
You can, as far as you can store them indefinitely. They don't get older once they're frozen. So you pay a yearly storage fee. So, and my husband calls it the boarding school tuition.
Yeah.
You have to, but they can, as far as we know, remain frozen indefinitely. How old to use them? We know that the likelihood of success, if you do use them, doesn't depend on the uterus that you put it into. It depends on the age at which you made that embryo, or the egg or the embryo. So, I mean, the reality is that there have been reports of one of the clinics in LA actually got someone pregnant who was like 63 years old. So medically, you can do that. Now, what happens, there are increased risk in pregnancy, really, certainly over the age of 50, there's a significant increased risk to the health of the mother and the health. So, every clinic will have their own cutoff. Certainly after the age of 45, we really require people to go get a thorough, like, head to toe evaluation and get medically cleared. And I believe at Kindbody 50 is kind of where we sort of talk about, is this really a good idea for your health to carry a pregnancy at this moment?
Thanks. Molly, what was the incentive for you to go to a fertility doctor in the first place?
I wasn't with anyone.
Mm-hmm.
I really didn't have a chance to have a baby because I didn't have a partner. So it was just a step that I thought that I wanted to take in case I didn't meet anyone. That's really, honestly, like, why I went. I was a little bit nervous, and my mother thought I was never going to get married. But I just also want to say one thing. If women are thinking about doing this or wanting to do it or in the middle of this, really, really surround yourself with really positive people, because it can make a huge difference. Like, I had a doctor tell me, oh, I'm old and probably never going to happen. And I think you have to be careful surrounding yourself by people like that. I had a pretty bad situation happen. I can't get into it right now, but Dr. Akaka was like, I don't believe that. And she was just my warrior, and Lori Bregman. And, I think you have to really surround yourself with positivity at this time. I think also in life, but especially at this time. What one doctor says, another doctor might not agree with. And that's just the way it goes, if it's not working and still not working, my advice is to change it. You don't know why. You probably will never know why. But I really do think it's important. Go with your gut, listen to your gut, and follow your gut. And try to really not have toxic people around you, because I think it can be literally detrimental to your psyche during this time, because it is so emotional.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice.
Oh yeah, that's what Lori just said. She's on the chat. She goes, we called them faith killers. No, that's true. It's like a faith killer. It's like, come on, I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear a statistic. I'm in it to win it, like faith killer. I love it.
Molly, something I'd love to add is that we really came at a point, it's not about who's not in your life, it's about not having the Mr. Maybe. And really, fertility preservation provided us both. I mean, it was really like a kind of, for you, is like, okay, what is this? Are you in, or are you out? But for my biggest goal as a fertility advocate is truly to be like, this gives you a choice. You don't have to settle, because I'm going to tell you, and as someone who's older, my people in my life who settled, they're on divorce number 1 and 2. So this is your power. True. This is our moment. And it's not shameful that what we don't have is what we have. And what we have as women is a choice to do what we want to do. And as a couple, if you're gay, if you're lesbian, whatever that is, these are our choices. And we really want to make, and to Molly's point, flush the toxic. And sometimes we are our own toxic person, like saying the negative stuff, that what we can't have, but what we can have is have a choice. So I think that it's an empowered place to come from.
Totally. And I mean, I wanted a baby, you know what I mean? With or without a partner, mama was having a baby. And, you know, I wasn't going to leave my fertility up to a maybe. And I think, or a boyfriend or a fiance or coulda, woulda, shoulda, I was taking that power into my own hands at that moment. And I was going to start this journey, you know, with or without that prince. But, yes.
I'm just gonna, and one other thing that I really liked is that she just said, like, if you want, I try to tell people, she said, if you want a baby, just make that your goal. And so, you know, everything we've talked about today is preservation and making a baby with your own eggs and your own embryos. And I think for a lot of people that is certainly their primary goal. But I think it's true that if you are willing to explore all options and you want a baby, we'll get you a baby. Right. So I think that, and there's a lot of different ways we live in this amazing time where there are really a lot of ways to create families and to create babies. And I think that that's always really important to remember too.
Thanks. We have just a few more questions. Molly, can you speak to what, you talked about the hormones, but the recovery, like how hard was it for you to recover from everything, or was it pretty easy? I think you're on mute. Mute.
Oh, sorry. I was coughing and I didn't want to cough, and even with the computer. Some months were better than other months. Some I was like, oh my God, I was up and about the next day. Some months I was a little bloated. I'm not going to lie, like that really heavy feeling. But again, I had, you know, really good experiences of with fertility at that point. You know, they monitored me after, before and after. And probably the most I had was a feeling of really being bloated. Not an achy a little bit, but honestly, it was pretty simple.
Thanks. And we have just a couple questions on like tips and tricks. Dr. Brower, do you recommend acupuncture, or what are other things that you recommend?
Yeah, I think acupuncture, I always say to people, acupuncture is great. And especially if you enjoy it, lots of really good acupuncturists do acupuncture. They do nutrition counseling. They give, as Molly mentioned, supplements and herbs. So they're doing more than just needling people. And I think they're doing talk therapy. Honestly, a lot of, not all, but some our acupuncturists are actually part of the support network in such an important way. If you hate, oh, I can stop sharing my screen. Thank you. If you hate needles, if it is so stressful for you to get there, if it's stressful to park there, if it's a stressful process for you, then maybe reconsider. It's certainly not a deal breaker. You can still get pregnant if you're not doing it, but I do think it ends up being a positive for the vast majority of people. And then, as we sort of said, a lot of these other tips and tricks are the things that we're talking about, managing stress, right? Because fertility preservation, struggling with infertility is in and of itself a very stressful process, right? Nobody walks into our office and doesn't feel stressed out. It doesn't exist. So that's not going away. How are you going to manage it? Like, what are your tricks for facing that and managing that? And is it therapy? Is it exercise? Is it mindfulness? Is it acupuncture? What's going to work for you? So I think that sort of paying attention to that and just saying it out loud, like acknowledging that it's stressful and being okay with that, and knowing that the stress isn't going away, but you're going to find a way to cope with it. I think that's one of the biggest tips we can have for people.
Thank you. That was so amazing. I'm going to pass it over to Tracy to thank you and say goodbye for our next section.
Thanks, Molly.
Molly,
Thank you guys so much. I just want to get a shout out to Julie from Superfoods. I don't know when she's coming on, but she's so awesome.
She was right before you. So
yeah. She was? Oh, yeah. She's so good. Well, for those of you who don't know her and missed her, you should follow her. All right. I love you guys.
We also have a lot of support for Fertility for Dummies in the chat. We're very excited.
Molly and I get credit. That was our book idea.
I know. Literally. I'm like, okay, this is the month of your life.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
But again, you guys use Kindbody. The virtual consultations, they're amazing. They can walk you through every step of the way. And I think with Tracy and Dr. Meredith, they're really there that, you know, I didn't have that. I mean, I had Tracy and it was just she and I, but again, I think, you know, sounds odd. And when you're trying to have a baby, you'll know what I mean, but baby death to everyone who wants that. And I'll pray and I hope you guys do it because it's not that hard.
Thanks, Mom.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Okay, I'm unmuting because again, the background noise, I want to make sure that we can give focus. And thank you everybody so far. Like the chats has been super awesome. Rebecca, who is our Senior Director of Marketing, we are going to work on a blog post that we would love. We'll put kind of the FAQs of what we had in chat because we feel like there's a lot of questions that we weren't able to get to today, and we'd love to be able to help. And then again, we always host fertility 101s and give information. And honestly, it's a free resource. And every time I listen, as many times as I've even done it myself, I always learn something and have some good takeaways. And again, our biggest goal is content, connection, and sharing and making things accessible for you. So we're super excited that we've had such a great response because we want to now be able to do this on a weekly basis and provide information. And in earnest, please, you can always email us at navigator@kindbody.com. Please send us a suggestion. If there's anybody you think we should talk to, if there's something, any way that we can connect and share light right now, we're happy to do it. Right now, we're going to have a little bit of a dance break, get a drink, stretch, go to the bathroom. But I loved that Molly Hayward also said we needed to kind of shake it up. And this is our time to give a little shake up to everything. So we're going to I think we're getting queued up. Oh, I think we're getting good. So I have where I'm super excited. Can we, Sam, do we have Carrie? We have DJ Carrie here. This is what we're going to try to pull off. We have a DJ from Los Angeles, a dear friend of mine, DJ Carrie, who's one of my favorite. When I need to shake the dust off, I always go out and hear her spin. And then I have also Katie Fragus from Presperology, who is in New Jersey. So we're going to go Jersey Shore to the California shore, and we're going to make a little dance party. Carrie's going to lead us off in some music, and then Katie's going to show us some movement. And if we can do we have Katie so she can say hello?
Hi,
there
guys.
she is.
Hi.
Hello, Katie. Thank you for joining us. So
thanks for having me.
And Katie will explain, once we have the music going, you'll probably not be able to hear her talk, but she knows she's a woman of movement. And and we're gonna do some movement. And I encourage everybody, freestyle, do whatever you gotta do. Get that drink of water, mimosa, my secret vodka, and my water bottle, just kidding. But we'll get, go ahead, take it away, Katie.
Okay, guys, so yeah, just be ready. We're just gonna get up, move a little bit. So stretching, you're probably sitting there slumping for a while. Shoulders back, stand up. Let's go. Okay, and just remember, just follow along, okay? Nothing hard, okay? All right, as soon as we get that music going, just get into your body a little bit. Yeah, just releasing it.
You may not have a car at all. Just remember, brothers and sisters, you can still stay tall. Just be thankful for what you got.
Here we go.
Though you may not try, a great big Cadillac, diamonds in the back, the sun moved up, give him the scene with the gangster lean. Diamonds in the back, the sun moved up, give him the scene with the gangster lean. Whoa, tell me now,
Other side and hit.
I love that. Very true. Any musicians out there, I'm sure you can identify with that.
Everything is working.
Just remember, brothers and sisters, you can still stand tall.
Other side.
Some moved up, digging the sea with a gangster lean. Down in the back, some moved up, digging the sea with a gangster lean. Down in the back, some moved up, digging the sea with a gangster lean. Down in the back, some moved up, digging the sea with a gangster lean. Down in the back, some moved up, digging the sea with a gangster lean. Down in the back, some moved up.
Hit it up. Let's go. And punch. Punch. Come on, guys. Hit it up. Hit. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Other side and hit. 3, 4, 5, 6. If you can't hear the music, just keep moving. 4, 5, 6. Keep going and 1. Let's go like that. Two, 3, 4, 5, 6. Other side and 2. And press. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now we're gonna squeeze. Even if you can't hear the music, we're just trying to get the body moving, guys.
Je grave ton nom sur un arbre pour ne jamais oublier cette sensation mémorable de nos deux cœurs enlacés. Souviens-toi de cette fable écrite par un écolier. Allez dans ton cartable jusqu'à la fin de l'été. Je t'entends sur les vagues pour ne jamais oublier notre première escapade sur cette plage isolée parmi les pierres turquoises. J'ai fini par oublier que deux regards qui se croisent ne se rencontrent jamais.
Down. And up, stay low, guys. Pulse. 2, 3, 4, 5. Come on, come on, come on. 6, 7, 8. Come on. 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, and down. 2, add up. Just getting that body warm. Down. 2, 4, 5, 6, 7. Shake them up. Just kidding. Here we go. Let's go. Up. And 2, and 3, and 4. Come on, guys. Can you fix this? Shaking it out, guys. Shake it out. Keep the chest open. Open it up. Bring it down. And down. Down. Yay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Katie.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, DJ Carrie. Literally, I mean, the fact that we were able to even pull this off in some shape or form. Carrie, I really appreciate you coming from Los Angeles, and Katie coming together, and just, it's about coming together, and we proved it here for sure. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
So I'm gonna go to Meredith. Oh, let's get our screen share fixed. Okay, let me see, sorry.
Well, while Tracy gets the screen all set up here, our next speaker is a licensed clinical psychologist, Dr. Lauren Arena. We're very lucky she's helping. I think we just called her like yesterday. She was eager to help, even though we gave her short notice. And one of the things that we've been talking a lot about is mental health. Whether you're trying to get pregnant or not, I think that all of us should be probably paying a little bit closer attention to our mental health right now. And we know that Dr. Reina, she's actually gone out of her way to seek sort of updates and training about mental health in the setting of COVID-19. So she's done courses. I mean, she at baseline is a very experienced therapist who helps people with depression and anxiety, patients struggling with infertility, post-traumatic stress, bereavement, a lot of different things, and has taken it upon herself to figure out how to support her patients in this sort of unique moment in time. So we really appreciate having her here with us today.
Thank you, Meredith. That was a wonderful introduction. Yes, like she said, I jumped at the opportunity to be of assistance because this is such a personal topic for me. I am a psychologist, but I've also been in the fertility world for years. I'm currently 9 months pregnant as a result of a successful IVF cycle. But yeah, as soon as I heard about Kindbody and what they did, I was so eager to help in any way that I could, because something like that, didn't exist when I was hit with an ovarian failure diagnosis at a pretty young age. So when I was talking to Tracy yesterday, and we were talking about just the need for the mental health component, and how that was, one of a main emphasis of Kindbody was having that. I said, this is wonderful, because they didn't have that when I was going through treatments. And I know many fertility clinics still don't offer that. So I do think that there's a great need. Again, I'll give you a little bit of a backstory about me. I am a licensed clinical psychologist in California, and I specialize in things like depression and anxiety, also infertility, post-traumatic stress disorder, bereavement, marital struggles, etc. Because of my, unique, I did an IVF cycle. This was after many failed attempts doing IUI, another thing. Like I said, I was diagnosed at 33 with ovarian failure. I remember I got the numbers, and it was 1 to 20, and I was rated at number 1 for my ovarian reserve, which you can imagine, number 1 being really bad. So it was very, very, very scary for me to receive that at 33, when I didn't think that there was a problem. I had normal periods, so to get that was really upsetting. So had about 6 to 7 years in the fertility bubble, kind of doing various treatments, and none were successful. So as a psychologist, it was kind of a parallel process with me, because I was working with clients that were, pregnant or struggling with fertility. And I was also experiencing that myself. And again, I, was really eager for resources and things to help myself and help my clients. So I wrote down just a few notes. Again, with the Board of Psychology, they've been wonderful. They've been really, I've actually been doing telehealth with my clients for the past 6 months, because I've had a bit of a complicated pregnancy. So I kind of got a jump start on doing telehealth with people, and it's been really wonderful. I was, at practice at UCLA in Westwood, and loved the in-office experience. But when I had to go on bed rest because of my pregnancy, I was kind of forced to do everything via mental health, and it's been wonderful. It was actually a blessing in disguise, and I've had a lot of clients. Some were more enthusiastic than others, but everyone now is really grateful and has, really embraced the process. So it's wonderful in terms of what we can do with technology, that there is that option. So like I said, the Board of Psychology has been wonderful in, they're normally a little bit more strict with the requirements for telehealth, but have kind of loosened their guidelines a bit and have set up, wonderful training seminars for therapists, and have kind of relaxed, like I said, just relaxed their guidelines. So a lot of people now are able to receive telehealth therapy, which I think is really, really wonderful, because it's kind of a new area. So I think embracing this, especially in the time of COVID, is really important. So again, COVID fertility, as you know, is it can be such a stressful time. There's so much pressure, that we as women put on ourselves in terms of fertility. So it's really, really a stressful time in general. So that's kind of what I call a micro personal stressor that, is very hard on its own to deal with. And then you add on a micro stressor, macro stressor, which is now COVID, and both, there's a feeling of uncertainty. They have a lot of similarities. Uncertainty, feeling completely out of control, helpless, hopeless. Many people that don't even have underlying anxiety or depression issues have been experiencing an increase in all of these. And again, we know with women that are going through infertility, they do have increased rates of anxiety and depression, which makes, sense, because it is such a period of uncertainty and stress. So, recognizing that there's a lot of things that are currently out of our control. And I think kind of you can get into the, when you get into the fertility bubble, sometimes, wanting to control everything can be all consuming, and it can make you feel really out of control, just as the kind of COVID, people are having responses where they're trying to control everything, and it's making them feel more and more out of control, and just frazzled, and stress rates and anxiety is going through the roof. So recognizing what is within your control. And there's actually a lot of things that are in our control. I think embracing what is in our control, especially during this period of uncertainty, is great. We have, like Molly from Quora said, we can, control certain things about our body. We can control our check-ins. I do a lot of, in my practice, a lot of reparenting or parenting of oneself. And that's just basically, recognizing one's emotional needs and acting upon it. So, in this time, people tend to ruminate about the present or fear the future, ruminate about past things. Oh, I should have done this cycle sooner, or what's going to happen in the face of, how long is this going to last? How long is this going to affect, my ability to become pregnant? All these unknowns, and they can be really, really, really disconcerting. So I think, and kind of normalizing those experiences for yourself and recognizing that, they're normal. Everybody during this time is faced with uncertainty. So that's, an attempt to parent oneself, saying, this is normal. This, these feelings of uncertainty, these feelings of helplessness are normal, and that's okay. I think it's when you get into the self-critical mind that it can get really dangerous. So you don't want to do that. You want to normalize your experiences, and again, focus on things that are within your control, such as sleeping and such as eating. You can control. I think recognizing that routine is very important. So, scheduling a 10 o'clock bedtime and trying to keep with that. Also, our minds wander about 50% of the day, and it's normally towards negative stimuli because it's kind of a survival technique. We are looking for things to take us out in the world, but the bear, in this case, the proverbial bear, is in our minds. So kind of looking for, things to ruminate on, and our minds wander 50% of the day. So I'm doing with all my clients what's called a worry period. So I'm saying select 5 to 10 minutes at any point in the day, and worry you can worry during that whole time. So worry, but only during the specific amount of time. Allow yourself to worry. And then outside of that, if you catch yourself worrying or ruminating, say, no, this is not within my worry period. I allotted myself this 5 to 10 minutes where I worried myself, and now this is not within my worry period. It's a very easy behavioral strategy that I think can be quite helpful. Also, recognizing cognitive distortions is really important. During this period, people tend to catastrophize. They think very black and white, jump to conclusions, generalizations, and when you think like that, it tends to immediately trigger a fight or flight response. So if you're thinking, oh my God, I don't know how long this COVID's going to last. How is this going to affect my pregnancy? Am I ever going to get pregnant? Is this, am I ever going to be a mother? All these things, all these fears come in, and, they tend to be catastrophic. And you can recognize that simply from being aware of, your body. If you recognize you're having heart palpitations, or it's more difficult to breathe, or you have a headache, or you feel tense, it's probably because you're engaging in one of these distortions, and they tend to, again, trigger that fight or flight response. So I think being aware of that and recognizing, okay, well, I'm having these physiological responses, and this must mean that I'm engaging in some kind of distorted behavior that's negative. So what can I do really in the face of that? And a good thing is, I'm a big fan of practicing self-compassion, and it's a way, there's very simple ways to practice that. Like I said, acknowledging, validating, normalizing feelings. A good intervention is, what would I tell, a friend or a loved one in this time? How would I talk to someone other than myself? Writing a supportive, journaling is a huge, I love to incorporate that in my practice, because I think it's so important that we kind of get outside of our own heads. Our minds are not our friends. They will tell us all kinds of distorted narratives. So I think when and if you allow it to build up and build up and build up, there'll be, you tend to be reactive. So getting, your thoughts out of your head, whether it's on paper or calling a friend or journaling or talking to someone. Again, that's why I think that, telemental health is so crucial right now. And I know so many people are changing their practices to be able to suit this. So this is, a wonderful time to, even if you've never been in therapy before, it's great because, you can do it from the comfort of your own home. And again, all of my friends that are psychologists and psychiatrists, I know, are setting up their practice now to be able to do sessions, via the internet, which is great. So yeah, recognizing, that pain is inevitable, but suffering is not. Suffering is not present-minded or wise-minded. It's suffering is, the inability or the unwillingness to accept things that are out of our control. And I think really control is a big factor in CBT, and it's the more you tend to want to gain control, the more elusive it can be. So the more you kind of do things to foster it, the more it will evade you. Ultimately, I do mandatory check-ins, I think are great. I encourage people to self-dialogue all the time. Radical acceptance, again, it doesn't mean approval. It doesn't mean liking the situation, but it's an acceptance of the past and the present. So there's a few recommendations that the Board of Psychology actually put out that I think are really helpful. It's called STRONG is the acronym, and it's keeping a routine. S is for sleep, keeping a sleep routine that you can adhere to. T, taking medication, so taking your medications to treat, your physical and mental health stuff. Resist, R is for resisting kind of the use of drugs and alcohol. Even if you didn't have a problem with any kind of addiction prior, a lot of people have been drinking more to kind of self-medicate or out of boredom. So, recognize if those things are coming up. Once a day, I think was really interesting. The O stands for once a day, to try to focus on building a mastery activity. So, taking a cooking class, joining a book club, maybe learning a language, something that, you wouldn't have considered or done had the situation not been going on. Nutrition, and no over or under eating. I think that's really important. And G, get exercise. So even though we can't really go outside, yoga classes, things like that are wonderful. Anything online, just walking around the house or doing some push-ups or sit-ups are great. Again, staying connected, group support is absolutely wonderful. Utilizing telehealth therapy where you can, and you can just go on literally Psychology Today's website and put in fertility, and you can find a list of treatment providers that specialize in fertility and that are now offering telemental health services to their clients, which is great. I think my time is up, so I'm going to open it up for questions. I think it's up, right? Yes.
Dr. Lauren, thank you so much. And I know it's kind of hard to, in this venue with so many people, but we would love to do a true support group in the future together where we can kind of ask and talk and have a conversation. And most importantly for us today is we really wanted to share your amazing energy, the fact that you are an IVF warrior yourself and someone that has gone through this. And I think we're all together, and I appreciate you. Thank you so much for joining us today. And I really hope that we can work together really soon to do a support group. And like I said, we're going to be providing weekly content. We're going to be doing support groups and events and whatever we can do to connect while we get through this, and honestly beyond, because that's what we're all about. So thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate you.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. Thank you.
I am so excited. So when we really thought about putting this retreat together, it's about wellness, but it's like about what you eat, what you think, what you do, and how you move, and all these wonderful things. And when I really thought about finances, we're having a hard freaking time right now, and we need to really think about kind of what we're doing and how we're conserving. And I'm the worst because I have some shopping addictions, and Sephora is my best friend. But I have to say, when we were thinking about who to go to, and I went to my Kindbody Hive, and one of my amazing teammates shared with me, this is who you need to talk to. You need to talk to Danny Pasquarella, and she is someone who can help you. It's almost like a diet. I want to be on a diet, but don't tell me. So Danny, welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm so excited for you to share your and what kind of things that we can do to really kind of get through this from a financial perspective.
Thanks, Tracy. Yes, and thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here. As Tracy mentioned, I'm Danny Pasquarella. I'm a certified financial planner, and I'm also the founder and CEO of Invibed. And actually, I'm going to quickly share my screen so that we're all, can everyone see my screen okay? All right, I got a couple of thumbs up. Thank you very much. Yeah, so today what I want to do is, this is obviously a very stressful time. Money is the #1 cause of stress in America on a regular day. In the time of COVID-19, it's even more top of mind and stressful. So I want to really give you just 3 actionable steps that you can take right now, like this weekend, and you should hopefully feel a lot more in control and confident about your financial situation. A little bit about just myself and what we do. At Invibed, we are a financial results platform. Basically, the way we got started is I was working on Wall Street, and there are a lot of great resources if you're already independently wealthy. Most of us are not, myself included. And what I noticed is most of my friends had great jobs. They were crushing it in their careers, and they were, doing amazing. But money is not one of those things they learned about in school. And once they started on their careers and they were starting families and they had social lives, very hard to find the time to kind of squeeze it in. But so basically our clients are people who know money is important. It's the thing that's going to allow them to achieve their goals, like starting a family, buying a home, eventually retiring, taking that vacation. But they want some help in order to make it happen in a way that's, really just quick and, gets the results they want, and then they can go on with their lives. So what that looks like is, our typical client will increase their net worth by $9,000 on average. And then some of the things that we help with, you can see them listed here. It's everything from, emergency funds, having a budget that works, big life goals like starting a family, and all of that are things we help with. What that means for you today is, we're on the front lines and hearing how COVID-19 is affecting everyone financially. So 2 things I want to start out with saying. The first is, you're not alone. If you're thinking, I'm so stressed about this, it's not just you, it's everyone. Right now, 3 in 4 Americans are worried they won't be able to pay their bills because of coronavirus. And also, if you're thinking like, if you had some sort of a cut in pay, or, maybe, something happened with your employment situation or your income, we've had a lot of people come to us and say, they're taking it really personally and feeling like it's me, it's something that I did. It's not. Like, this is a black swan event. No one knew this was happening. It has nothing to do with your skills or your worth or your ability. It has everything to do with the fact that the world is very, very not normal right now. And, in fact, about 30% of Americans have had a wage decrease already because of COVID-19. And that's gonna continue to most likely climb. So just know it's not you. Don't take this as a reflection of yourself. Just, and really understand that. And then the second thing, which is even, to think about, is this too shall pass. When you're in the midst of it and all this uncertainty, it can seem really scary and frightening. And, it's very easy to feel overwhelmed and not sure what to do. So the thing I always like to, tell our clients to ask themselves is, do you believe things are going to be better 3 months from now, 6 months from now, a year from now? And when you take that long-term perspective, it's a lot easier to kind of handle your day-to-day and really focus on this and see this as an opportunity, as a time to, maybe start cooking at home a little bit more, do some research on fertility, do the things that you wanted to do all those days when your schedule is so busy, and now you have the time to tackle it because you're at home and we all have a little more time. All right, so on to top 3 money moves. 3 things that I advise everybody to do. These are things that our clients have been using that have been really helpful for them. The first is know your runway. The second is boosting your emergency fund. And the first is do not panic sell your investments. I'm going to go through each of these 3 right now, and we'll start with knowing your runway. So the first thing that we've had our clients come to us in the past few weeks saying is, I'm seeing all the headlines about what's happening to people's jobs, and I've had friends that were laid off, and I don't know what's going to happen to me, and I'm really uncertain, and it's scary, and help me make this anxiety go away. And the first thing we do is we calculate what's called their runway for them. That the question we're answering is, if you income stopped tomorrow, how long could you pay your bills? Because knowledge is power. And the second you have that knowledge in your mind of like, this is what I'm equipped to handle, then you can start taking action and making your situation even better. You feel in control and like you've got this. The way you calculate it is 2 ways. The first is lifestyle runway. You take all the cash you have, so just add up all of your checking, savings, all of that. Then you divide it by your normal monthly expenses. And you can actually see an example here. This is what we send to our clients. We actually make this for them. And then they can actually see all their cash divided by all their monthly expenses. And then this is their survival time in months. That's the first way to do it. The COVID-19 way to do it is, okay, if you had a worst case scenario situation happen, let's calculate your emergency runway. So same thing, but we're gonna slash any monthly expenses we can get rid of. So any luxury items you don't need, cut them out. Student loans, if you have federal student loans right now, you're off the hook for 6 months, no payments due, no interest. That's money that you can use for, that you won't have to pay. And anecdotally, for our clients who have had decreases in income, everyone is so willing to work with them. We've actually been able to cut expenses for many of our clients by like 50% pretty easily, just from calling and saying we were affected. And lenders and everyone, mortgages, auto loans, you name it, are very willing to pause everything at great terms. So use that to calculate your emergency runway. That should look better. Maybe you've just doubled it. If you're happy at this point, then you can stop worrying. If you have the safety net and you're like, great, I've got like 6 months, I feel good, fantastic. Now your stress level should decrease. If you see this number and you're not happy with it, then we move on to step 2, which is boost your emergency fund. Your emergency fund should be a savings account, like at a place that you don't normally bank. So out of sight, out of mind, you won't be tempted to spend that money. And you want to have at least enough to cover 3 months of all of your expenses, and ideally more and more. Ultimately, you want to get to the point where you feel like life can throw any curveball your way and you can handle it. The great news is, again, like if you still have income coming in, it's never been easier to save. Like we have limited lifestyle choices. And like I said, most services and lenders are allowing you to postpone payments in a lot of cases for free. And then we also have other things like stimulus checks. 80% of Americans are getting them. So that's money coming to you in the coming months that you otherwise wouldn't have. If you have a tax refund, another great opportunity to boost your emergency savings. But what I want you to do is commit to an amount that you are going to save. Figure out what's your ideal emergency fund size, and then let's take steps, and every single week, let's take steps towards getting there. A good way to think about it is take your monthly income, subtract all your monthly expenses, like the bare bones, like I'm in quarantining mode, and maybe I'm not spending a ton of money, and then get to your maximum monthly savings amount. Then commit to saving that. Like every time you get paid, automatic transfer right to your emergency fund and build that up. One thing we're telling all of our clients is you might have many goals. Our clients are always saving for a variety of things. push those to the side for now. Emergency fund should be your number one focus in case something happens, and you actually need to have that cash on hand. And then guess what? Hopefully in a few months, this will all be over, and then you have a big pile of cash that you can either keep in your emergency fund, or you can just auto transfer right to your goals. Guess what? You've already saved for that next vacation or whatever you want to do. That's the second thing is boosting your emergency fund should be your number one goal right now. And then our last tip is don't panic sell your investments. So the next thing that we're getting asked about all the time is, hey, my 401k is down like 20, 30%. It's scary. Like, should I sell everything? What do I do? The short answer is no, absolutely not. Keep everything as is. And the reason why we say that is we look at history, and no one has a crystal ball. No one knows what's going to happen to your 401k in the future. But we do have, decades and decades of history, and that's the best predictor that we have, so we're going to go with that. This is one of my favorite charts ever. We send this to all of our clients whenever they're nervous. It shows every single downturn we've had in the US since the 1920s. The big takeaways here, a downturn is typically 2 months to 2 years, and your markets will go down 10 to 50%. So if you're thinking, oh, my 401k is down 20 or 30, that's normal. That's like what typically happens. The more important part of this chart is the right side here with where the green is. We have recovered every single time. Every time we've had a downturn, we've always not only recovered all the losses, but then made that back and then some and continued to rise beyond that. Typically, recovery takes 3 months to 4 years. So if you're looking at something like a 401k and you're nervous that it's down, ask yourself, will I need this money in the next 3 months to 4 years if you look at like the 1940s on? And if you don't need that money for more than 4 years, like based on history, we'll probably be well beyond recovery by the time you need that money. So the main thing is keep that long-term perspective and don't let short-term noise and headlines affect decisions that will that will impact your ability to do things like retire that are decades out. All right, so that's our top 3 tips. So just to recap, know your runway. Knowledge is power. It's going to make you feel more confident. Boost your emergency fund. The more cash, the more comfortable and stress-free you're going to feel. And don't panic sell. Making long-term decisions on short-term information is usually not a great idea. And then just finally to wrap up, if you want more money moves, it's really important to us to help our community at this time. And this is such a great group. So a couple resources. One, we have a coronavirus money guide that's coming out. It's like this, but super, super detailed down to like, how much is my stimulus check and like when will it arrive? Short, like 90-second videos about every question our clients have been asking us. That's free. We're going to put the link on Instagram to it, but it's really comprehensive. Also, step-by-step breaks down what to do if you lost a job, if you had a reduction in income, or if you're in a good spot, but you're just kind of worried, with step-by-step instructions. On top of that, just for this group only, we're going to offer 50% off of all of our memberships through tomorrow at midnight. This is not something we typically do. Like our Black Friday sale is like 25% off, but we think it's so important to help the community at this time and to really, ease the burden of getting started. So if you're at a point in your life where you're like, I have this extra time, I want to better myself and I'm ready, and finance is the thing that I really want to tackle, we're here for you and we want to make it as easy as possible for you to get started. So that's all I've got. Happy to open it up to questions if anybody has them.
Thank you so much. I've been looking at the chat and we have some good questions. One that we got from a few people is, what do you recommend doing right now if you are not making an income and don't really have any savings?
Yeah, so the first thing is, I'm assuming that has to do with, so if you're not making income, you don't have savings. First thing to do is, if you had a situation where you lost income, file like a job loss, file for unemployment as soon as you can. They've actually, not only is there normal unemployment, but they've also made it much easier to qualify. You can now get it for up to 39 weeks instead of the normal 13, and they're also giving an extra $600 a week up to 4 months on top of what you would normally get. So we've had people like that have had job loss situations where, from an income standpoint, it's after we cut expenses, they're kind of living a very similar life to what they had pre-job loss. Second thing to do is call every single big bill that you have for the month and tell them you are impacted. we haven't had a situation yet where somebody's been turned down. We've had mortgages, you can pause for up to a year now if they're federally backed, and put those on pause. Student loans, you're off the hook for 6 months. Credit card companies, we've had them allow you to pause for 1 to several months. Auto loans, same thing. So just know, like, whatever big bills that you have, first thing you need to do is call them and see if they'll work with you. Everybody across the board is very open to doing it. And if you're worried, like, I don't know what to say, just simply it's almost as if customer service has been trained. The second they hear COVID-19 or coronavirus, they're like, yep, check. Let's give them what they need to be successful. So don't be scared to call. And if you ignore it, it's going to get harder. If you tackle it head on, you're in control. You're going to get to a great spot. And I think also stay on top of things. Stimulus checks are coming. Make sure you have direct deposit set up with the IRS. And if you also haven't filed your tax refund or your tax return and you're getting a refund, another source of money that can come to you very quickly. So those are a couple of ideas. If you want more, like, I'd say our step-by-step guide is going to have them all, but don't lose hope. Like, there are so many resources out there for you and ways to support yourself during these times. And I'd say seek them out, take advantage, and just take control of it.
Thanks. And just one more question, since there's actually a lot, but we're running tight on time. Is now a good time to invest or buy stocks? If so, where is a good place to start?
Great question. So I'd say do not touch investments or stocks until you're like, my emergency fund is fully stocked. I can handle any, situation that can come my way. If you feel like you're super secure and like you have the most secure situation ever, then you can then at that point, investing is actually a great idea. Think about it like everything's on sale right now. So if you have the extra money, historically, a time like now when markets are down, 20% for the quarter is a great time to get involved. Typically, we tell our clients to start out with robo-advisors. So like Betterment, Wealthfront, Ellevest, they will create a portfolio for you so you can get started and get invested without having to have all of the knowledge of investing. You can kind of learn as you go with the support of, their portfolio management team there. So those are all great places to start, and very low minimums. You can get started with, I think the highest minimum of the 3 is Wealthfront at $500. The others, it's like you can start with $10 if you want to.
Great. Thank you so much. That was really interesting and informative. Thank you. I'm going to pass it back to Tracy now. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you, Danny, so much. And like I said, we're going to have a goodie bag of all of the information that we shared today. So there is a lot of discounts. There's a lot of things. And Danny, thank you for taking the time, because these are all of our concerns. It's all part of the wellness that we're kind of struggling to put together at this time. And next we have is Lori Bregman, and Molly mentioned her. Just so you know, Lori, Molly gave you a big shout out.
I heard her. She's so sweet.
Yeah. Lori is an amazing, again, many hats as we all, these amazing dynamic women, doula, spiritual coach. I've done yoga with you, Lori. I've done pretty much a lot of amazing things, and where your core is and kind of where we've been talking today is how do we be mindful. And I really appreciate you joining us today and talking to us just as we wrap up all of the speakers and everything we're doing is kind of where do we go from here, and where is our mindfulness? Like, how do we incorporate that in a daily way?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I'm so happy to know that Kindbody exists, because I've been working with people, from fertility through pregnancy into birth and new motherhood for 18 years now. I've been a doula. And like Molly and I we were both saying about the faith killers, and it's so necessary for you all to have support and to be nurtured during this experience. And when somebody's literally telling you you're getting too old, your eggs are this, and they're just putting the fear of God in you, your whole body starts to shut down and stress takes over, and you just start going to a spiral. So it's really important to stay in that upbeat and surround yourself with those uplifting people. So I'm so happy to know that Kindbody is a place that people can go. I'm going to be sending you guys everybody, like literally sending you so many people. We are in this really crazy time right now where it's like a big pause. It's a big time to have a reset.
it's a great time to really look at and reevaluate and to use this time to kind of really think about how you want to move forward. And it's one of those things that if you get too far ahead of yourself, you'll start to spin out. So it's really important. The only thing you can do right now is to stay present to what is. And I tell a lot of my clients that, especially the ones that are having babies. A lot of my clients that are, due in September or October, and they're like, should I do a home birth? And I'm like, let's see where you're at then. Right now, this is what's happening today. And it's good you're not having a baby today. But stay present to what you can do. I know that so many of my clients that are going through fertility treatments had to stop. And that's so frustrating when you want something so badly and you've been waiting for this and you had your heart set on this time and it's not happening. It's kind of like, what can you do right now in this time that is in front of you to maybe prepare your body a little bit more? Maybe there's some relationship things going on with your relationship that you needs to be patched up. Maybe there's like, you've been stressed out and going 100 miles an hour, and this is a great time to just kind of unplug and let your nervous system settle and de-stress. We know stress and what it does to fertility. I was working with a girl yesterday and she was glowing, and she's like, everything's on hold. I have to put everything on hold to get pregnant. I'm like, but look at you. And she's like, Lori, I have no stress in my body. And I was like, what a nice way to go into when you can go to your treatments again. What a nice way to go into this. And she's like, yeah, and I've reconnected with my husband and it's just been great. And so you can really use this time to really, to reset yourself. And because we're not going to be here forever. This is just temporary. And there might be a new normal on the other side. So instead of, trying to get back to what was, it's like, what can you create today to build your tomorrow? I know some people are start new relationships and everything's on pause, and I know some people are starting new careers and everything's on pause, or some people have to take their careers and do other things with it. I can't go into the room right now when people have babies. I've been doing that for 18 years. So I'm doing, I have a virtual Mindful Mom to Be program, and I'm taking people through the journey virtually, and it's been amazing. And I go in the room with people via Zoom. And you do what you can do with what's in front of you right now. I read this quote today that it was everything. In the rush to return to normal, use this time to consider what parts of normal are we rushing back to. And it was so powerful to me because I was thinking I would go 100 miles an hour, and this slower pace feels really good to me. And I think this is just such a great time to reflect. And even if it's like you're trying to get pregnant, this is a great time to talk about your values and morals with your partner, and to catch up on some books, maybe to read some books, to do the things that you've wanted to do, to take those long needed rests, because once your body's going to demand a lot of energy when you're pregnant. So this time can be used so productively if you use it in the right way. I think it's just being mindful and doing what you can do in front of you. I also tell everybody right now, it's so important to have a schedule. And I like to say these things about bookends, where it's like how you start your day sets the pace for your day, and how you end your day sets the pace for your sleep. And sleep is so important. And also routine is so important, because days can turn into like days and you don't know what day it is. And so I think to create these morning rituals for yourself, a new morning ritual for this time, where maybe it's mindful practice. Maybe it's like I spend 5 minutes meditating. I do a little bit of yoga and some breath work. I read a couple pages in an uplifting spiritual book. I limit the news. I definitely think limiting the news is a good thing. And then I work from this time during the day, or you give yourself permission. I go sit outside and get 10 minutes of vitamin D. And then before you go to bed, you transition yourself to sleep like you would your child, right? When nobody goes about their day and would stick a kid to sleep right away, they would give them a bath, right? Give them a great meal, give them a bath, read them a story, transition them to sleep. But we don't do that for ourselves. And I think this is really important. So I would really invite you all to create some kind of a morning and evening transition, because it'll bookend your day. And then in this time where you don't feel like you're doing anything, and even just giving yourself permission to nap right now, you are doing yourself something. You are resetting, you are restoring, you are resting. This is so important. Our nervous systems are a mess because we're so used to doing that. Can you just be? And if you can, like, what comes up for you? This is a great opportunity to go within and see what's happening internally. Like, what are you feeling? And being in tune with your feelings. I think it's really important. So, also I wanted to say too about Molly Sims. So when I was working with her, I created this fertility smoothie, and I was drinking it myself all the time. And then when she was trying to get pregnant, I gave it to her, the recipe, and then she was drinking it every day. And then her and I did a bunch of videos and went viral. And so I ended up creating a smoothie company line called Seed Life, which you are going to get discount codes for. But I have a fertility smoothie that is basically, it's a powder that all the ingredients are in the smoothie blend. So we've had over 350 pregnancies, confirmed pregnancies, after just launching for a year, from people trying to get pregnant forever. And, Tracy, I have to send you some. But it's so, it's been great. I want to give you guys all this, and, and everything. So.
Thank you, Lori. Like, everyone, like that quote, I think it might be, not that I have a tattoo, but if I were to get a tattoo, I love the idea of really having this moment to think about what's worth returning to. And I've thought about that a lot. And you and I, in the last week, have had lots of conversations and in earnest for years. And my heart kind of hurt for you just now when you said that you can't be in the room right now. And so something that is so sacred to what you do is taken away. And I think that's kind of where we all are at, and we're all kind of struggling. So let's repair and reset and get to those moments. And I want to thank every single person that has been in chat, my Kindbody teammates who have been, little typing fingers in there, responding and giving information. And I also love all the people that don't know each other around the world that are sharing tips and their tricks and things. And this is exactly what we wanted. We really wanted this moment to connect and almost be that ignition for others to share their light. So this is so awesome. And we're really glad. And as Lori spoke about, she's got a discount to give. We have all this really great kind of gift. And I hate saying the word goodie bag, but I'll be honest with you, I'm a sucker for a goodie bag. And where we're going to, and again, take this time for yourself, take this time to assess and make your plan. And that's why at Kindbody, for like our goodie bag and what is we're trying to do is just, number one is find out where you stand. If you're not sure where you are, what you are in your fertility journey, whether you're younger or older, like Molly said, is like, just know where your AMH is, because maybe you do save that data for later. And then part of why we want to do these virtual consults is to help people create their plan or talk about their plan, because part of it is even saying it out loud. And I know, Lori, you're very much a huge proponent of like speaking your truth and having a conversation. And so normally for us, a virtual assessment is $150. We are making it $50 because we really want it to be accessible. And maybe you don't use that plan for a while, or maybe the minute we're allowed to be back together, you're like, let's go. I'm ready to have a baby, freeze my eggs, whatever you want to do. We want to come from a moment of empowerment. So again, thanks for all the chats. We're so excited. We're excited to do more of these and make them better. And again, send Navigator at Kindbody, send us suggestions of who you think we should talk to. I want to thank, from the bottom of my heart, every single one of our presenters. I want to thank my amazing team. I've got Rebecca and Emmy and Erica and Hina and all of our physicians, and Jenna and Cara and Audrey and all our team that shared the story so that we could connect today. I'm so thankful. And all of my close girlfriends, I see friends from high school, I see friends, like, it's just such a beautiful moment. And I'm really thankful to have this with everybody. And Meredith, I'd love for, do you have a closing?
I can't top that. I can't top that.
I'll just jump in with what we're going to send around the notes from this, as well as all the goodie bag offers. For Kindbody, it's $50 max for a virtual consult or your insurance copay. It could be less, but that's the most you will pay. And then we're also giving $1,000 off an egg freezing or IVF cycle whenever we're open and everyone is out and about and you want to continue. So there's no time limit on that, but you can use the code for that discount anytime in the month of April.
So thank you, everybody. And go ahead, Meredith, I'll be quiet because I love to talk too much. Yeah.
No, that was, I feel the same gratitude. I appreciate all of our speakers for sharing and for you for, really the vision of putting this together. It was really great. And for everybody who's supporting, thank you all.
Thank you, everybody. We hope to see you again soon and get together and create, let's disrupt the nonsense that's going on and connect and have a great conversation. Have a beautiful rest of your weekend. And we look forward to talking to you soon and however we may connect. Thank you.
Thank you.